Hello, my friends. Oh, today, what a joyous day. Well, I don't know if it's particularly joyous, but we're here. We're live. Got some stuff to talk about tonight, boys and girls and emperors. We got some great news. Our friend Kevin McCarthy is no longer Speaker of the House. Bye-bye. Bye-bye. Gone. Woo! Smoked. He's cooked. Goose is cooked. Oh, man. Please, forgive me. Forgive me. We don't like schadenfreude here, usually. But, yo, look, I've just been dealing with leftist infighting for a while. So let me celebrate the right infighting just as a treat, okay? Just give this to me. Let me have this one, okay? Thank you, please. let me bask in something that's not my party tearing itself apart, but instead another party tearing itself apart. I know it's probably not great, but it's a problem. Stephen Tronson said, "From what I understand, this is a bad thing for Dems. How so?" I'm willing to hear you out. My gut and my instinct says probably not. I think the most likely outcome of this event is that either McCarthy makes some concessions to the 8 Republicans who voted to oust him, or he makes concessions to the Democrats to get them to support him, and then he's reelected Speaker. That is probably what is going to happen. So whichever side is willing to work with the other, then, well, that's the side that will win. The question becomes, those 8 Republicans, did they do it for actual principles, or are they just looking to grandstand and make a show of being the outsiders, if you will, or sticking it to the man? The Democrats, are they willing to actually work with this guy? Are they willing to make some compromises and get some leverage against him in case, to force him to back it up? I don't know. We're going to find out. We're going to find out. The first time in U.S. history that a House Speaker has been removed by a vote of this measure. As I understand it, that is correct. Gates is the bad guy, but McCarthy isn't the good guy, right? Honestly, none of them are the good guys. We aren't dealing with good or bad here. We are dealing with power politics, and at the end of the day, that's what gets shit done. We're seeing this live in action, gang. We're seeing it live in action. Again, I don't know what the future holds. I do not have a crystal ball. But my most likely prediction, the prediction that I find most plausible, the most likely outcome, is that, again, McCarthy will work with either the 8 Republicans who ousted him or the Democrats, or enough Democrats, maybe a specific caucus of the Democrats, to get a couple of concessions, and he will be back as a speaker in about a week or 2. We'll see. I could be wrong, but if I was the Democrats in this situation, which I am, because I'm a Democratic voter, I'm just not a congressman, what I would be doing is I would be reaching out to McCarthy's office, and I'd be like, yo, if you were willing to back me on this piece of legislation, I would be willing to vote for your reinstatement as Speaker of the House. And obviously, get some leverage so he can't back out of it. He can't backstab you. Get some kind of something where it's he can't just like, haha, fooled you, I lied kind of deal, right? Backroom deals, etc. Do what you need to do. But that's what I would be doing if I was a Democrat today. If I was in a Democratic position, that's what I would be doing. Likewise, if I was one of those 8 Republicans and I was serious about concessions, I would be saying, hey, McCarthy, we will change our vote We will change our vote if you do X, Y, or Z for us. We'll see. We'll see, right? As I understand it, the vote was 208 to 216, or was it 210 to 216? I forget. Something along those lines. Oh, I think I said that wrong. I think you're supposed to do the yays first, then the nays. So it was 216 to 210. I'm pretty sure. So there's about 8 votes that need to be swayed here. Or 7 votes, really. But 8's probably the wiser ones. So again, a caucus in the Democrats can probably leverage this wisely. And or the Republicans who voted against him could probably leverage this wisely. We'll see what happens in the future. Now, another likely outcome, not as likely, but more likely than I would like, is that no one works with anyone, and it just becomes like this kind of fucking chaos shit show where it's gridlock forever and no one can get anything done. That is also high up there on the list of possibilities of what comes from this, right? The interim speaker, who did they appoint as the interim speaker? Does anyone know? Does anyone know? I think they did. The interim speaker is actually from a list that McCarthy gave for possible interim speakers. Butler? Was it Butler? Okay. I don't know much about him. I'll have to look into him. But yeah, it's I am also curious when it comes to the interim speaker. Are there powers that the full speaker has that the interim speaker does not? I don't honestly know. I'm very, very curious. Sergeant Mark says that is very unlikely. Dems will probably just vote for Jeffries and will be a gridlock. Maybe. If they were wise, though, they'd be willing to support McCarthy if they got X, Y, and Z. They can pick something that he can go with them on that won't totally crash his career, as well as something that they want, some concession. The Speaker pro tempore is usually a senior member of the majority party who is chosen for their presiding skills. However, more junior members may be assigned to the rules. Okay, fair enough. But what powers, right, do they have? I don't know. Or is it kind of like a just kind of an honorary position? Okay, Wolfglen says all the Speaker pro tem can do is adjourn, call the House into order, and keep voting on the new Speaker. That's good to know. Wolfglen with the actual information for us. Really appreciate you. Really appreciate you. So yeah, that's a problem. Okay, that's a problem. We need a new speaker. Who's this gonna be? If McCarthy wants to be speaker again, he can. He just has to be willing to work with either the Republicans that ousted him or the Democrats. One of the two. Again, it's a fine line. He can't give up something that will tank his career. That's a little too big of an ask. But we can get something. Times of Wine. They need to vote in a new speaker before the budget extension is over. Yes, they do. That's going to be a problem. We'll see. We'll see. When does the budget extension end? Do we know? Do we know? I hope we do. 40. Yeah, so there's plenty of time, I think, to politics this and get it done. Yeah, that's 45 days. I trust that this will get done then. I trust that we'll have a new speaker by the time. Again, this requires at least 2 of the parties involved to not be headasses. I know that's a big ask, but it requires some sort of compromise to happen. And we want a compromise to happen, gang. We do. We do not want the government to be shut down. That is bad. I know there are some in my audience who might be shut it all down, burn it to the ground types, but that's not me. No, sir. No, ma'am. Not me at all. I think that we need to focus on something we can get. So I think anything pie in the sky, just set it aside. Don't look for the perfect. Don't let it be the enemy of good. Just get a couple. Just get a couple concessions, right? Some low-key concessions, something more than you had before. And I think that this, again, is probably the wisest way to play it. That's just my instinct. Again, this is fresh. This is new. But we'll see. 200 bits from 𝕍𝖎. I swear, this is the 45th time this year the government's about to shut down. How many budgets does the House need to pass, for fuck's sake? Fair enough. The far right is actually crazy. Many of them are. Centrists love this part of government. LOL. I do love the compromise, but I'm not a centrist. I don't think loving compromise is a centrist thing. Compromise is a feature, not a bug. Okay. It's a feature, not a bug. Grackle. Our friend Grackle. Donald Trump is going to be made Speaker of the House. Stay mad. Okay, good luck. The growling arachnid. Why? Every time the government shuts down, the stock market goes up. Is that true? And I don't own stock, so it doesn't fucking help me. All I know is that when I was in the military and the government shut down, we were always worried about our pay. It absolutely impacted our pay. It sucked. We didn't get a check. I hated it. I hated it so much. So, yeah. I suppose it's where you sit and who's buttering your biscuit. But it is what it is. Did everyone like yesterday's stream? Did you guys enjoy that? I had fun. I hope you did too. In about 30 minutes here, well, a little less than that, 25 minutes, we're going to have OldManLondre come on to talk about his time in elected office. He's an actual, he was, I don't think he is anymore, but he actually won election, and he was able to get out the vote, and we're going to talk about what he did in his time in office. Wick greater than Lex Friedman? Well, I don't rate people like that. I don't rack them and stack them. People are people. Humans are humans, no matter how big or how small. No matter how silly, how serious. And I don't rank one better than the other. Especially amongst my friends. Lex Friedman isn't my friend, but I wish he was. Gonna be real with you. I'm a parasocial. He's my parasocial daddy. Okay. I admire the man. Portland is burning. You very nearly quoted Brittany Simon. I've had Brittany Simon on the mind. We're gonna talk with her Thursday. She accused me of being emotionally abusive to Murkoff to Perk. Aceman X130. Are you this wick that I hear the leftist streamers hate on? Some leftist streamers. Not all leftist streamers. Some rightist streamers hate on me too. It's an equal opportunity hate here in Wicktown, okay? People hate on me for all sorts of reasons. I don't understand it really, but here we are. Look, I just ask questions. I just have discussions. And I just sometimes give my opinion. Sometimes that opinion is right-leaning. Most of the times it's left-leaning. But, you know, is what it is. Portland is burning. I can't think of any right-wingers that hate you. Name names. Well, Andrew Wilson isn't a fan of me. Let's see. Fabian Liberty Scott doesn't like me. Shit. What's his name? There's this dude I muted, and he left the stream in a huff. Not Andrew Wilson. He did that too, but I'm talking about a different guy. I don't think he's a streamer. There's a few. Okay. There's a few. Those are the off the cuff names. Those are the two I'll give you off the cuff. How's that? Oh, Fanatic, he's right-leaning. He hates me. Maybe it's because you have a better gray beard than that ever could. Than that ever could ever have. Than that? What do you mean that? Than they could ever have? Maybe. I mean, it needs trimmed up. Look, this is scruffy, gang. It's all scruff and fluff at this point. I need to trim it up. I need to make it look pretty, but yeah, here we are. I don't know. We also have tomorrow an interesting debate that you guys will, I think, enjoy on the limits of privacy. Privacy is a right, or it should be a right. At least I believe so. But where are the limits to that? Some people might agree with me that privacy there is no right to privacy, or some might disagree with me that privacy has no limits, right? But we'll see. We're going to talk about it tomorrow. We're going to have Straight Raid on. We're going to have Prime Kai. We're going to have 𝕶𝖎, who is new to the channel. That'll be fun. And there's a few others that we're going to have on. It should be fun. Should be good. Oh, sorry I'm a little low energy today, but look, I'm tired. I've got a lot on my mind. Got a lot on my plate. It's been a tough week, okay? But I'm putting it out there for the content for you all to enjoy. Because I think it's important that we talk about politics, actual politics, instead of drama. So that's what we're going to do today. But I am going to touch on drama just a smidge, just a tad. The response to yesterday's stream was almost overwhelmingly positive, but there were a few naysayers. There's two questions that I've been asked that I think I need to address. One, Wick, why was your stream so boring? All you did was tell us what we already knew, that President Sunday was a liar. Fair enough. Fair criticism. I'll give you that one. Okay? Sorry. I had to prioritize accuracy over entertainment. Perhaps a bad decision, but it is what it is. Had to do that for the sake of my integrity. Second question I've been asked. How much did Brianna Wu pay you to make that stream? Well, let me tell you again. Goose egg, $0. I received no money, no donations from her, or anyone affiliated from her. I received nothing, really. I did it for free because, well, it was important. So there you go. I did it for free. It's true. How did you get a Bugatti then? I don't have a Bugatti. I wish I had a Bugatti. You guys gonna give me a Bugatti? Now, of course, if you guys want to pay me for this stream, I'm more than welcome. I more than welcome you to. Local Glowy says it was an investment. I don't know about that. It was a signal that I do value integrity. It was a signal that I think it's important not to let people just spread baseless lies. So yeah, there's that. Would you really want a Bugatti? If someone gave me a Bugatti for free and paid for the taxes on it, all that, yeah, I'd take it. Why wouldn't I? Why wouldn't I? I don't know. Would I? There's an old joke that I almost forgot, or that I almost remembered, but I'm forgetting most of it, so I won't tell it. Gang, what kind of stuff do you want to see coming up? We have a whole month of content. What do you want me to cover? Do you want more one-on-one interviews? Do you want more analysis? Do you want more panels? What do you want to see me do content-wise coming up? I would love for you to have suggestions and give them to me. I would love for you to just, let me know what it is that I'm doing that you enjoy and what it is that you would like me to do that you haven't seen me do. 𝕍𝖎 asked for more schizos debating. More meme debates. You want more meme debates? Like, what kind of memes you want? More meme debates. Like, well, oh man. The last meme debate we did was, should men be locked up in cages? People took it seriously, and it became a problem. Like, I lost like 100 subs from that stream. I'm not gonna lie. People thought I was thought that was serious, and I'm hesitant. I'm hesitant to do the meme debates because there's always a portion of people who won't get the joke. And yeah, Lisa, yeah, we lost about 100 subs on my YouTube from that. It sucked. The chalky debate was not a meme. I was dead serious about that one, gang. I wasn't kidding. That was not a meme. Should women do whatever their man asks as a sexual act? Are you trying to make me lose followers, Zephyr? What is going on? Like, do you not want me to be successful? Do you an actual copyright panel for Resi and invite Turkey Tom again? I'm sorry that Resi didn't like that stream, but I like that stream. I could do... You know what I think Resi excels at more than anything? Just one-on-one talks or very small group discussions where he can be the shining star. I think that's where he shines. I think that's where he could take center stage and spread his wings and be a butterfly. He does very, very well. And he's a very, very beautiful butterfly. So, yeah. Reservoir says, no, it was boring, but fighting with Tom is fun. Rhinox wants more dogfucker discourse. How much dogfucker discourse will we do? We already had that debate. I think it's a settled question, is it not? Reservoir is, I'm also good at buffering other people. Who would you want to buffer? Who do you want to buffer? Who do you want to stand? Well, first of all, am I understanding you right with what buffering means? Buffering means like support someone else in their arguments. That's what I take it to mean. Is that correct or incorrect? I don't know. I don't know, gang. I don't know what's going on. Look, I really do have no idea sometimes what's going on. Like the Brittany Simon, I'm emotionally abusive accusations came out of left field. I had no idea I was going to get hit with that. That was crazy. I feel terrible for Rora as well. Like, Rora got shit on. Just like, I don't understand it. I don't. I was saying the same things that Rora was. But Rora caught so much more flack than I did for it. I don't know why. I'd have to go back and look. But it's, it was crazy. Oh, Temperate Takes wants monogamy versus polyamory. That's actually a debate. That wouldn't be a meme debate, though. We would bring people who have strong opinions on that either way. I think we've done something like that before. Lisa, don't be weird with that. Look, we don't slut shame. We don't. I don't know. It's weird when people make those kind of arguments. I don't like it. I don't like it. It's just a personal preference, if you will. Rora literally did an as a woman to a woman who's often accused of being trans. Is Rora accused of being trans? I didn't know this was a thing. Why is she accused of that? That makes no sense. Oh, Merc is? Well, no, that still makes no sense to me. Merc doesn't... Yeah, that makes no sense. Conservative liberalism says the privacy issue is a fun one. Instead of talking about whether or not it's constitutionally protected, depending on how hard you squint at the Constitution, we ought to be championing the idea of making an amendment that removes all doubt. That will be one of the arguments that is presented tomorrow, I am sure. But there is a question, right? To what extent should someone's personal privacy extend on the internet? Should what you say in a group chat, if you are a public figure, be subject to public scrutiny? At what point are you protected from people putting you on blast for your utterances in private, right? That's a question. It's a legitimate question that we need to wrestle with. We need to grapple with. Some would argue that as a public figure, anything they say should be held up for public scrutiny, no matter the venue. That there should be no behind closed doors, back deals, or any of that. The public has a right to know what is being said, especially from politicians and deliberations on legislation, etc. That is one argument. There is another argument that the right to privacy is sacrosanct and should be to protect people online from having the swarm or the mob attack them for private thoughts amongst friends. That politicians, public though they may be, are still people, are still humans, and still worthy and deserving of privacy in certain situations. That is the argument that would counter that, I think. Dragar 99. We do have the public citizen and a private citizen. We have kind of lagged in defining it in the modern day. Frozen Knight says it only takes one person who takes offense and can make it a big deal on a large scale. But should that be protected, right? Should there be consequences for doing that, right? If you are found to leak private information, should there, like, what are the bounds of that? If you are, and it's a hard question to answer because we do want, to some extent, to protect whistleblowers. So what a whistleblower is, ideally, is someone who sees misconduct, someone who sees illegal, nefarious things being done behind closed doors, and they blow the whistle on it, right? They blow the whistle on it and say, expose someone doing something illegal or wrong, right? Or immoral, okay? But the problem with that is that no one, or well, I won't say no one, so few people understand what is the difference between this is wrong and this is something I don't like, right? Or this is mean. There's a substantive difference between this is illegal, they're breaking the laws, they're breaking an ethical code, and, oh, these people are kind of dicks behind closed doors. But because there is a propensity of mental illness online, they are unable to distinguish the difference between those two things. And thus, perhaps, we need more strictly defined lines for people. Perhaps. Something we'll be talking about tomorrow. It'll be an interesting discussion. You should tune in. Tim Legowski says, not everyone operates under the same morals. That is true as well. The Sumerian guy, will you be talking to 𝕵𝖎𝖎 I will be Thursday. That is going to be Thursday at 6 p.m. Eastern. I will be having 𝕵𝖎𝖎 and perhaps Rora as well. Now, that's up in the air. Initially, 𝕵𝖎𝖎 demanded that we not bring Rora on at all, that Rora was unsafe, that she would never talk to Rora. But I think that is being renegotiated. I'm letting Rora and 𝕵𝖎𝖎 do that and decide that. I do want 𝕵𝖎𝖎 on one-on-one for some one-on-one time for at least 30 minutes, though. Because I just honestly want to ask her, did she mean what she said or was she memeing? Did she mean what she said when she said I was emotionally abusive towards Merck? And I would ask her to elaborate on that because, again, I watched her coverage of it, right? I watched her segment of it. I watched tomfoolery's coverage of it. I went back and I watched my own coverage of it, right? I was like, because when I first saw the video, right, Brittany's video, to be clear, I was like, was I emotionally abusive? Damn. Click, 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 tap, 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 tap. Went, watched it. Still didn't understand. Watched Brittany try to explain why I was emotionally abusive. I strongly disagreed. Tom Foolery's coverage was pretty good. He made me feel sane, right? He got a couple things wrong, but you know, no one's perfect. Yeah, it's just this idea, like, conflict is not abuse. Can we say that right now? Can we please get that out of the way? Conflict is not abuse. Saying, hey, I think you're wrong is not abusive. Saying, hey, I think what you're doing is going to hurt you is not abusive. Can we agree on that? Maybe? Dusty Johnson. I don't know. Sounds like something an abuser would say, Wick. Perhaps. Testicle Johnson also for $2 Canadian. Shit on my chest, Wick. Not for that amount. You gotta up the ante here. I need more money. Parallax. Brittany and her ilk believe all relationships are negotiations and manipulation. As such, there must be a power disparity. So no, they will not agree with you. Maybe not. But I want her to explain herself. I am not, and I want to be clear. I have no real beef with Brittany. We're good. You were allowed to think almost anything you want about me. You were allowed to criticize me. This is kind of the whole point of the channel, really. You were allowed to be hypercritical of me. You were allowed to levy accusations against me. You were allowed, dear friends and enemies, to exist here and to say what you will, say what you believe, say what you think, and say it with your chest. And you will not be blackballed by me. You will not be forbidden by me. I will not burn that bridge for what you do to me. Obviously, there are some lines like you cannot cross, but nothing, we've not gotten close to that, right? Like, fair enough. EOD, exercising his rights, saying Wick is a doo-doo face and a dumb head. Beautiful, beautifully said. Bobby Johnson says, just don't leak private DMs. That's a big one for me, right? Or other people's group chats. Like, I guess I do have a thing for privacy, right? I hold it as a virtue, as a good thing, something to protect. I think that the culture we have on the internet of just violating everyone's privacy all the time, right? For clicks and views, I think that's cancer, and I'm trying to push back against it. Hardwood and Sock says, no, disagreeing with me is actually violence. Maybe. Frozen Knight. Too many people need safe spaces, and that's never going to be the internet. They get offended or hurt by anything and everything that doesn't agree with them. That is true, too. Sumerian guy says, she just kept on bringing your age. Bringing up your age, I assume you mean. It was odd. Maybe. I mean, I brought up my age once during the discussion. I did say I was 40 in the discussion at one point. So I don't think it's out of limits to bring up my age. It's okay. Right? It's just weird. Like, it's weird how the older you seem to be in this space, the less respected you are. I don't get it, but it's a thing. I don't know. Tim Legowski says, Rule 1, never trust anyone on the internet, period. Wise, but I think sad at the same time. You are wise to say that, and it is wise to behave that way. But it is a sad state of affairs, and I would like to change it if I can. $2 from Parallax. Have you considered you may just be a level 1? I could be a level 1. That is possible. You were 40 back in 1999. I've been 40 forever. That's true. The People's Elbow says, the left cannot do this because they fundamentally understand the dubiousness of their claims to privacy. Virtual signaling. That what privacy is online. There isn't any privacy online. There is good behavior, and that is all. I don't think that is a good thing, that there is no privacy online. I think that's bad. I think it's leading to us being terrible to each other. Oh, I was saying about the McCarthy thing earlier, Tessie Johnson, but I'll say this again. For those of you who are just tuning in, perhaps, Kevin McCarthy is no longer Speaker of the House. Kevin McCarthy was voted out by all the Democrats and 8 Republicans, I believe. Matt Gaetz called for his ousting and succeeded to do so. Now, where do we go from here? We have an interim Speaker of the House who can only call for a vote for a Speaker of the House. They can adjourn, they can bring the House into session, and they can call for a vote for a Speaker of the House. That's literally all they can do. That's all they are empowered to do. So, for the next little bit, that's all we are going to be doing. What I likely is happening behind scenes is McCarthy is trying to work with someone, anyone, to make that, to kind of flip the votes, right? And get people who voted against him to vote for him. So whoever's willing to work with McCarthy and get that leverage so that they can trust the concessions they get is going to make out with some gains in this. I advise the Democrats, or at least some of the Democrats who want certain concessions from McCarthy, to go in and ask for some modest concessions and gains in order to flip their vote and reinstall McCarthy as the speaker. Otherwise, McCarthy is going to work with those 8 Republicans and compromise with them, and that is objectively worse. It is going to be objectively worse for what the Democrats want and what the Democrats want to see instated. Now, the Republicans who were grandstanding about this to Matt Gaetz and his ilk to get McCarthy ousted, the question for them becomes, how much of this was just a show? How much of this was just to get your name out in lights on TV and to signal to your crazy base that, look how crazy I am. I'm willing to disrupt the government. I don't know. So it's basically a race to see who can work with each other first. And ain't that a fun one, gang? Ain't that a fun little race? And we'll see what happens with that. My world to reign. No such thing as objectively bad. I disagree. The People's Elbow. McCarthy set this up all on his own, though the Democrats are complicit in this. Democrats had a chance for leadership stability in the House, but they demurred and let McCarthy hanging out there with a one-person shot to propose a motion to oust him. Rabid Wombat for 100 bits. I think people should respect the intent of a space. If it was meant as a private group for people to explore intimate and not fully formed thoughts with each other, it's a deep betrayal to break that trust. Anyone who does should be outed and find it difficult to ever be trusted again. Hard agree. As bad as the people covering the leaks were, worse is the one who did the leaking. That's a Judas. It's a betrayer. We have 45 days for the government extension. It's plenty of time for these things to be worked over. Ties and Wine says, Wick, will you be covering the Trump cases? A little bit. I'll admit, I'm not into the nitty-gritty of the actual cases itself. It frankly isn't my area of interest in general. However, I am deeply interested in the results of this, the precedent that is set by this. So I will be covering the results of these cases. Major developments in these cases, I absolutely will cover. But the minutia, the case itself, is of no interest to me. Florida man going brazy. Maybe. Okay, let's see if OldManLondre is here. I think he is. Hey, you're live. Muted on your end, sir.
Hi.
Hey, you got a camera for us today?
I do. Here I am.
We could do it.
In the flesh.
Is that Michelle Obama?
It is, indeed.
Fair enough. This is white erasure, sir. Okay. First of all, that's what I want to say. Like, there was a white woman on that, and it was erased. I'm just gonna have to wag my finger at you for that. But second of all, you hear the news?
There's no speaker? Last I
There's
checked.
where there's an interim speaker. I think Butler is appointed as the interim speaker. But
Ooh.
yes, McCarthy was ousted. What are your thoughts? Let's get it fresh off the press before we get into our discussion. I'm curious what you think.
I mean, I feel like it's a demonstration of what happens when people who have no business, no relevant experience and reverence for good governance get into office. We have an electorate that kind of lost a bit of kind of lost their sense of what it is to be a good public servant and a qualified one. So then you have these Matt Gaetz types and Boeberts and Trump, who they have no experience, no relevant experience to speak of generally, and no reverence for the job of being a representative. And then they get in there, and then when the clowns are allowed to run the show, this is what happens.
And here we are.
Here we are.
Yeah, there's a lot to talk about in this. I don't want to dive too deep into it, but I do want to talk about it a little when it comes to political deal making, etc. As you say, being a good public servant. I guess one of the questions I'd ask you to start before we kind of get into it is like, who are you?
Uh, so we're live, right?
Yeah,
Just
we're
want to
live. You're on my
verify,
show.
live. I feel like
You
you
got
usually do like
dozens
a
of
"Hey
viewers.
gang" kind of like hoorah thing, but
Oh,
I
I did that
suppose
earlier.
after
Yeah.
your like marathon Sunday fun day yesterday, I can understand why you might be a little, tired.
We did the Hey Gang thing. We did that. I started the
Oh, I
show.
didn't hear that. I think I was listening to somebody in your chat for a little bit
Oh
there. But
man.
anyway, so some people might know me as OldManLondre, who makes YouTube videos about left-leaning politics, progressive politics. But before I did this, I spent over a decade in real-world politics. Um, I I've served as an elected official. I've uh, run for office 3 times. I won one of the races, lost the other two. I can tell the stories of each of those. Thankfully, they were all very close races, at least. So it's not like I, had to really take one on the chin and say like I got my ass kicked. Um, I'm a former Democratic Party official. When I was 20 years old, I became the youngest ever elected chair of my local Democratic Party. And that was actually while I was still in college. And I'm proud to say that we had the most successful year as a party, uh, to my knowledge, ever. Um, let's see. Yeah, I mentioned my time as a candidate and elected official. I've worked on campaigns.
When you say elected official, can you be more specific?
Yeah, so the first time I ran for office, I was 18, 19 years old, right after working on the Obama campaign.
Mm.
And when that was over, one of the things that Obama called upon his movement to do was to step up in your local communities. And so that's what I tried to do by running for town supervisor um, in a town in western Wisconsin, and ran against 3 longtime incumbents who were all, unsurprisingly, since I was 19, much, much older than me, had been there for a long time. None of them took my candidacy seriously, which was kind of cool because I could fly under the radar and worked my butt off and came within 3 votes of winning a seat.
Three
Um,
votes?
yeah,
Three? Oh
um,
man,
it was,
honestly, that's so close. It is almost worse. It's like it's almost. I would rather lose by 3,000 votes than 3 votes. I'm gonna be real with you,
yeah.
because then I'm kicking myself in the ass every day. Like, three motherfuckers. Which one of yous? Which one of
Yep.
yous did it? Right?
Well, and I guess for me, the thing that I kept going back to in my head was if I would have just knocked on 10 more doors, I'd have picked up 3 more and I would have a seat. So I went through the recall process and gained exactly 0 votes. Um, yeah, I mean, on election day it was pretty tough because like it was one precinct, one vote total that comes out, and you win or you lose. You don't get to be like, well, maybe if this other district comes in, or this other precinct might be able to. Nope, it's like flashes on the TV screen. Here are the election results. I lost by 3 votes. So then I got much more involved in. I tried to gain more experiences, get more connections to the right people in the community to be able to run for office again if I felt like it in the future. And then at the age of 21, I ran for county board and was elected. Um, there was, yeah,
By
woo-hoo.
how many votes? 3?
I the margin was pretty good, is what I remember. I
Okay,
think it was like
okay.
a 10-point margin or something like that. I can go
Cool.
back and look.
So account on the
Um,
county board what does that mean? Explain to my
well,
audience.
yeah, like it's hard to explain in I guess for at least for me because I don't know where everybody's from. I don't know how to like compare it exactly to what, but it's kind of like, you have your city count, at least for us it was you have your city council and they take care of representing the people for the city. So if there's like a singular big metro city, then they cover all the legislation, all the regulations for the city itself. So that would be the city council. And then for your like towns and other smaller villages and stuff that make up the rest of the county, they'll represent that. Plus some, uh, they represent some matters that are related to the city itself too. So it's kind of like a layered thing.
Okay.
So there were, gosh, I should know exactly how many members there were. I said ballpark is like 30. I want to say it was 32 members of the county board. So
Yeah,
yeah,
about
that
as many
was
viewers as I have in chat. We'll say that.
okay. Cool. Um, and so then when after I won that seat, um, I was nearly completed with my full first term and was running unopposed. But then my wife and I realized that we needed to change where we were living because we had, it's a long story. My family remodeled a big Victorian house in this neighborhood that we were trying to help revitalize. And then once it was done, my wife and I, who weren't married at that time yet, were like, this is too big. Like 6 bedrooms is like stupid. So we should right size our life. So we moved, and it just so happened that I moved like 2 blocks outside of the district. So then I had to give up that seat.
Oh no.
Um, it's okay.
Yeah, why
And
did
then
you not, was this a surprise? Like, did you like oopsie whoopsie, right?
no, 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 no.
Or
We found at least at that point in our lives the perfect house for us. Um, and we were preparing to start a family. It just that priorities in life change and life happens. So that's what happened there. Um, I could tell you a very funny story about starting that campaign, but
the
I'll
council
leave that to a
campaign?
little bit.
We'll get
What's
to
that?
there. We'll
Yeah.
get to the specifics, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm trying to, for my audience, I'm just trying to let them kind of get a feel for your experience here and what you did, your failures, your successes, etc. So continue, please.
Yeah. Well, I've got a lot of both. So, and failures are fine if you choose to learn from them. Um, so yeah, after that, I was still very much involved in the community on different nonprofit boards and you know different civic committees and things like that, and then ran for city council in a race that I knew was going to be the biggest uphill battle for me because I was going to run against a longtime incumbent, very well liked, um, retired firefighter. So my advice to anybody here is if you get the chance to run against an incumbent, don't be afraid, but I would probably advise against running against retired firefighters. They seem to be very well liked.
Fair enough.
So, and he and I were on pretty good terms before that, and were
Were you
very
on good terms after?
yes, and
Okay.
actually probably better terms
Okay.
after because we both gained a unique form of respect for each other during the campaign.
Mm.
For me, it was, it's always humbling to lose. Um, as I suppose, as long as you're trying to be reflective about it. And I think for him, at least what he told me was he was shocked at how hard I worked for it, and he was shocked at how close I came. Um, so
4
in
votes,
that,
5 votes, 3 votes? What are we talking?
I I don't remember the exact number on that one either, but I want to say I lost by like 8%. But the am I my little my ego at least holds a little bit of pride in the fact that there were in this case two precincts, and he won one precinct and I won the other one. But there were just more
We're gonna
people
let
in
you
the one
have
that
it.
he won.
We're gonna let you
So
have it, don't worry.
yeah, still stings a little bit.
I get it. I get it. Question from the chat already. $2 from Testicle Johnson. How much can he bench though?
Not much.
Fair enough.
Not much. Look at
Also,
me.
are you an atheist?
No, I would say I'm somewhere between agnostic and believer. So
Lean on
like,
the probably side?
yeah, yeah,
Okay. Okay. Fair enough.
yeah.
And gang, if you have
I got questions.
questions,
I'm not
yeah,
sure, but
if you have questions throughout, just ask them. If you pay me, I will obviously get those questions out there. If you don't pay me and the question's interesting enough, I might anyway, but we'll see. But before we do that, I have some questions for you on this whole experience. So you ran 3 times total. First time
mhm,
you lost,
I
right?
did
You were 19, young, lost by 3 votes. Second
indeed.
time, you took the W. You served for how many years?
Just two.
A
I
single
I
term.
I will say
Mm,
I could have done four at least because I ran unopposed.
sure.
You got to
But
take those W's where you can,
I
man.
get you. I understand. You moved out and you forfeited the match
Mhm.
basically. And then third time, you ran again, and you got within 8% of winning. I think
Something like
that's
that.
respect. That look, that's better than I've done. That's better than anyone else I think in my chat's done. I think that's almost better than anyone any streamer that I know has done, right? Like we all know Keffels ran, um, took a big L. Brianna Wu ran, took a big L, right? Like we've had streamer types run before and taken big fat L's. So the fact that you got elected at all, yes,
And
absolutely, you
kudos
deserve.
kudos to them and
Yeah,
anybody else who puts
yeah.
not literally money,
Put your
but puts
hat in
their
the
money where
ring.
their mouth is.
Put your hat in the ring, right? Like go and serve. But I wanted to talk as well about what. First of all, so I think you talked a little bit of this in your preamble. The reason you initially ran is because you worked with the Obama campaign,
Mhm.
and he called upon everyone that worked with him to go out in their local communities to serve. Why did you start working with Obama in the first place?
Hmm. Well, I mean, that was a long time ago at this point. But I got started in my political activism with anti-war stuff. So the Bush administration had invaded Iraq. Um, like a lot of people, I got super enraged after watching Fahrenheit 9/11, and that kind of became the catalyst for my focus on politics. And after that, um, I wanted a wanted to support a anti-war candidate and a very progressive candidate. And back then, apart from like Dennis Kucinich, like who everybody knew had no shot in hell to become the nominee, and if he somehow did, that he'd get his ass kicked. And the most progressive person apart from him was Obama. And I mean, it's hard to describe uh I mean, I have such a romanticized recollection of the 2007 primary and the 2008 election, but being in the moment at that time, to be able to say like I got to work on the campaign that elected the first black president was a really cool thing, and I liked his policies, and but I guess the connection to my political endeavors is more that I liked and I loved what he had to say about, and what he was trying to convey to the American people about uh it electing him alone is not going to be the thing that changes things. I mean, he's a part of it, but everybody else has to step up to make these changes happen if we want to actually see them happen. And his community organizing background, it was one of the things that made me like really believe that he meant that. And I still believe that he meant that and means that when he talks about that stuff now. But yeah, those were the things that attracted me to his campaign, and it was a blast to be a part of that campaign. So yeah, actually, just to back that up a little bit, I ended the campaign as a field organizer, a deputy field organizer, because I was super young. They kind of had to make up a
Title for
position.
you. Yeah, I
Yeah.
get you.
Um, but I actually got started in the Obama Organizing Fellowship. So after graduating from high school, instead of going straight into college, I gave like a year of my basic year of my life to from dawn until dusk working on the Obama campaign, sort of before there was an Obama campaign. And then we got folded in, and the rest is sort of history there.
And here we are. Here we are. Okay. I guess another question I have for you then, since you saw how Obama got elected, you were part of that. You saw how you got elected or failed to get elected in a couple of times. What do you think is kind of the most important thing when it comes to electoral politics, getting out the vote and all that? What swayed people when you were doing your canvassing efforts, for example, both for yourself and for Obama? What messages or what style was most effective in your opinion?
So on my first race, when I was just 19, one of the first things that I thought I needed to do, and so I started doing, was just like become super knowledgeable about every little issue and prepare to like debate people and persuade people. I figured if I'm going to go to, somebody's door, and you know, they're going to be, asking me all sorts of questions, making sure that I know what I'm talking about. And uh, if I have ideas about what should happen, I should say, okay, you vote frequently. Do you like this idea? No, I think we should do it the other way. Okay, so now I'm gonna have to argue with you, but I prepared to spend like, you know, 5-10 minutes with every voter, just because that's what people kind of like to think, that if a politician's gonna knock on your door, they're gonna like hear you out and have a conversation about like
Was
politics and
that
the
a
issues. And
was that
but
reality?
that's not the winning approach, fortunately or not. um I was told you got to spend as little time as possible with every voter you talk to. And I was like, okay, so I'll bring it down from like 10 minutes each to, because like I'm knocking on a door of like some old lady. If she invites me in to like have cookies and like chat about, the township and hear her ideas about like what should be going on, I figure that makes perfect sense that like it'd be rude not to. But I bring it down from like 10 minutes per voter to 1, and then the elected official who kind of took me under their wing was like knocking doors with me and had asked like, how long did you spend with that last voter? I'm like, I don't know, like a minute or so. She's like, dude, what the fuck are you doing? You're talking to a voter for a minute? Talk to him for like 10 seconds. You introduce yourself, you say, here's my piece of literature. Here are the 3 things I'd like to work on. Or like these are the things that are most important to me. Um, I just wanted to give you some information and introduce myself. And you like keep it as short as possible. And don't talk policy. That's like, it's so counterintuitive, but that was one of my early learning experiences of what it actually took to win. And then the other one, at least on the local level, and this is like probably the hardest pill for progressives who I've helped get elected. The hardest pill for them to swallow is you need to be insanely focused on like as narrow of a group of voters to talk to as possible, because what they want because they're coming from a loving place, they want to talk to every voter. In fact, they want to talk to the voters who are underrepresented and who vote infrequently. And they could invest a bunch of time in getting this voter who has not been politically engaged before, um, like they can fix them and get them to care, and then they can help them like get to the polls. But if you do that, if you took any of the races I ran in, the number of people I could have talked to would be in the thousands, but then the number of people who are the frequent voters that I targeted, it's a few hundred. So you have to so you asked like what are the winning strategies? I mean, the 2 ones that were very surprising to me at least were how kind of heartless you have to be with like, here I know what small group of people are going to vote, and talking to anybody else is kind of a waste of time. And that doesn't mean that you shouldn't represent those people, the ones who vote infrequently. That doesn't mean that you shouldn't, be an advocate for them when you are elected, but you have to get elected first.
I think there's a lot. Oh, there's a lot to unpack here, right? Because I think we're focusing, and rightly so, because this is your area of expertise, if you will. You're the subject matter expert on this for the day, is as the elected official. But this is why I think it's important to realize and recognize that an elected official should work with others as well who do have the time to sit down with voters for longer,
Hmm.
who do have the time to target the voters who are infrequent and things for them. It's like a funnel, okay, right? So you are focused on the narrow end of the funnel, the bottleneck, right? Like the these are the ones that almost certainly are going to vote. I need to talk to them about the issue they care about, and that's what I need to focus all my time on when I'm canvassing. I want to blitz it, right? I want to get as many shake as many hands as possible, get my card as many hands as possible. So that means no conversations. But when you go one chain up, you have the people who perhaps have a little more time. They're not you. They're not your direct team. They're not your direct canvassers. But the people you meet, the people you talk to, the people that you convince can talk to their family, can talk to their friends. And then you have the social media influencers and things who have all the time in the world to kind of funnel people into you, right? Into that kind of narrow, more and more narrow kind of focus, narrow niche. Now, when we talk about like the what happened in Washington D.C. Last week with Progressive Victory bringing streamers to a local a federal politician, Ro Khanna, a congressman, and getting them to sit down and talk with them and things. The reason that I think that is brilliant is because it allows people who are online all the time anyway to start directing their audiences and working with the politicians themselves to direct their audiences into actual legislative action, voting action that I don't think we see usually in these places, right? You saw my stream yesterday. I had to expose President Sunday for being a fucking liar, right? Like that didn't help anyone get anyone elected, right? It didn't help legislation pass or anything, but I had to do it because again, if you're going around trying to tear down people trying to do this stuff, it's going to hurt the ability of us to work with each other. And I think that, like, when we talk to people in the sphere who say, oh, this doesn't matter, this isn't real life, that's true to an extent, but it doesn't have to be true, right? It's true now, but we can actually change that. We can actually take it from what it is to what we would like it to be. So I guess, in your opinion, what is the best way that online people, that online figures such as myself, such as bigger online figures as Destiny, Vosh, etc., what's the best way that they can kind of help in this process that you outlined about you when you ran for office, when you got elected? If you were back in 19 running for office and you had a streamer come up to you say, hey, I want to help you, how can I support you? What would your answer be?
Well, if it's a very individualized question like you just asked, I don't think that at least on the local level, I don't think that a streamer, it would be fair to ask them to like uh, directly contribute their time and attention and as if
They lived in your town. This got skin in the
well
game.
yeah well so let's say it was you, or
Sure.
do you want to pick
Yeah,
another?
we're next door neighbors, bro. And you're like, I'm running for office. I find out you're running for office, for local office, and I'm like, hey, how can I help you?
Well, there are ways you could help, but I don't think that there are, if I'm being honest, I don't think that
Yeah,
there
be
are in
honest.
that case um many many things that you could do that would be helpful, that would be unique because you're a streamer. So like if you were my neighbor, yeah, there are ways that you could help me get elected, but I'm not going to like lean on the fact that you're a streamer because you're
Why
not
not?
going to be because you're not going to be streaming to the like if you look at the average voter,
Hmm.
they're they're not the demographic that I assume is watching any stream
Fair enough.
ever.
Fair enough. But I will say
Um
this, that my little gremlins, my little wickers in chat, they are full of energy. And if I called upon them to be like, hey, I want you to come to Old Man Laundry's town and I want you to knock some doors for a weekend or phone bank for a weekend, I'd get you a couple.
for and I've run phone banks with
Yeah.
50 people, and I've
Uh-huh.
run phone banks with 5. And then I would actually say that if we're going to get that granular, that would be the thing. I'd be like, hey, if you want to get some of your viewers to go through this call list, I'll give you the script, I'll give you the list of the numbers and the names, I'll tell you exactly what to say and how to report it back. That would be the thing. But I think what we're actually should be getting at, and I think you kind of were at the beginning, is what's the best way for streamers to translate their influence and their audience into progressive victories. And I've kind of had an evolution of my perspective on this from when I started getting involved in this space a year and a half ago or so to now. Initially, I think I didn't manage my expectations of these people correctly.
What do you mean by that?
By that I mean I don't think, and we even had some messages, you, me, and Brianna actually a while ago about like kind of like my feeling was streamers should make it their like primary objective to get their audience out of their chairs, off their butts, and out doing shit. But if your greatest skill set is being a streamer, being entertaining, and educating people and starting conversations, I think that the greatest and most reasonable kind of ask of those people would be to just encourage their audience to kind of have a more healthy balance of how much time you're spending online versus, hey, I'm like, I don't think it would be fair for me to say to, Destiny or Bosch or anybody, like, every one of your streams you should have a call to action, and you should be like trying to push people to specific, because that's not what people go there for. Not primarily. I think that there are ways that we could make it, uh I think it's a little out of whack at this point. Is kind of my perspective, that there should be more occasions like the progressive victory get together, where these people who fundamentally are entertainers and political influencers get together, put the personal beefs aside, and just kind of like remind everybody, yeah, like, your back and forth with Sunday is like entertaining content, whatever, but here's what's actually important, and here's how you would actually have an impact on that. But just like
Hmm.
endless uh debates about, philosophy and, uh, interpersonal drama between different personalities, like, it's, you know a
Pays
guilty
the bills.
pleasure. It's like, it's content, it's good, and, whatever.
Yeah.
But I also just don't think that it's reasonable to like put the you
I
a single person can't
I
play
get what
every
you're I get
role.
what you're saying. I think I get what you're saying, but I'm going to disagree with you. I think it's eminently reasonable to ask them to be more involved and ask their audience to be more involved politically and in the real world. You don't have to do
More,
it every
yes, but I,
stream,
I think the question is like,
absolutely.
where is the line?
Sure,
Like
sure.
how much are we expecting them to just like
More
transform?
than we're doing now. I'll answer that.
And
It's more than we're doing
we
now.
agree there, for sure.
I agree with you. It doesn't have to be every day. It would be silly if it was every day. It would get boring if it was every day. But if we can do it on a consistent basis, especially as we have election season coming closer, right? Well, the primary season's going on in full swing with the Republican Party right now, and we're going to get into the general election probably by January, February. I don't know, something around there. I think it'll be quick, right? I think Trump's probably got it in the bag, right? We'll know quickly if that's actually the case, but we'll see, right? But once that starts happening, I do think that it's not an outside of the box ask to especially streamers that stream political content anyway. Like, I stream political content anyway. Vosh streams political content anyway. Destiny streams political content anyway. To say, hey, instead of just debating this online, you should also go to and use that influence you have politically to get the people that watch you into their local politics, into canvassing, phone banking, etc. Things like that. But
Yeah, I have no disagreement there. I think the caveat I would add, though, is that it's a misnomer to say that election season is coming up, because especially when you factor in local politics, elections are happening constantly. And the I, the the when people are like, well, I feel like politicians don't care about me or don't represent me. They, only represent the, old white dude and his wife or whatever. It's not people like me, not people like us. There's there are a lot of reasons for that. But arguably the biggest is because those people have voted in every election, not just presidentials, but they also vote for uh every candidate on the ballot during the presidentials, and then they vote in the primaries, and they vote in their county elections and their state elections and their hyper local elections and the specials, the referendums, and your voting record is public. So it's not public who you vote for, but it is public if you voted in a given election. And that's how politicians and their campaigns determine when they got to kind of triage who they're going to spend their time and resources talking to and persuading and sending mailers to and printing literature for, um, driving their candidate door to door. Um, they're not going to target people that only vote every 4 years. They get the people that vote at every opportunity are the ones who get the best representation.
no, I agree with you on this point. Right? There's the question in chat that I want to ask you, that was sent to me, but I have thoughts on this. So Lack of Choice has asked, how do you feel about the call to activism when it's counter to your position or views?
Can you
As in other words,
try
if
to
when
reframe that?
Republicans call someone to action, when they when a Republican like counterpoints, for example, right? When he does political outreach and activism for his side to get out the vote for his side. Question is, right? How do you feel about that? It's their question, not mine.
My gut response is like, fuck, another instance where the Republicans they're still doing it right. Like they understand that you can't just, argue on Twitter and convince yourself that that's valuable activism. They know that you got to translate that online stuff into real life stuff. Um, so then it's also like, I don't like to see it as a Democrat, because it's like, well, that I if I see that we're not doing that, I don't like to see that the other side's doing it. If I think that it's effective, like what they're going to do, because knocking on doors, no matter who's doing it, the side that knocks on the most doors, especially if we're talking local, is the one that wins. Um, Unless you're just really, really bad at it, which is a whole nother thing. But then there's like the very high level philosophical part of me that's like, I I am pro democracy.
Hmm.
So when I see people being engaged, I have respect for that. I when I one of it's a very humbling experience to get involved in local politics, to then, because you find yourself at these like weird meetings in different government buildings, sometimes late at night, and there's like you and it's basically you and a bunch of old people, but there's like 12 of them, and like half of them seem like they're asleep, and then there's like an angry old person who comes in and they have this grievance about this proposal, and just because they bothered to show up if, I might not like their position on it, but they showed up, they made their case, and then the elected officials are sitting there like, okay, well, the only people that showed up was this one guy who was against it, so I guess we'll probably be against it. And so it's like I have respect for people who are engaged in the real work and the real
Mm,
stuff that actually makes a difference, or it has an influential impact in real politics.
interesting, interesting. I I'll say this because I want to step back a moment to address your point on targeting voters and likely voters versus registered voters versus um, intermittent voters. I don't know the exact term for it, right? But there's likely voters, which, as you described, are people who vote all the time, every election, right? For everyone. And then you have the registered voters who may or may not. Then you have the possible voters who aren't registered yet. And it's interesting to see how you elucidate just how much focus is placed on the likely voter group. Wisely so. There's something I say to my audience all the time, and I'll repeat it now. There's a saying that your vote doesn't matter. That's not true. If you don't vote, you don't matter. Why would they listen to you? You not have any skin in the game. You're not playing in the game. Why should you be asked to participate or allowed to or not allowed to participate? But why should your input matter at this case? Like, you're not going to vote. It doesn't matter. Why should we cater to what you want? I wanted
Because you're
to.
telling the elected official in that case, you don't care.
Yes,
Because an
exactly.
elected official or a politician who is a candidate, they're going to look at your voting record as an indication of how much you care. Because it is a very easy way to get a sense of that. And it's illogical to think that a politician, a candidate, an elected official should care when you care about you if you don't care about them
I
and their
agree.
work.
I agree. 100%. And I think that that's a very important thing to remember. So when I see Twitter activists, right, talking about how no, voting doesn't matter, in my view, Twitter activism, such as it is only useful in the sense that it does drive real world votes to real world legislation. I'm going to be against you in that. I do think that Twitter influences the news cycle. I think it influences individuals. It's very effervescent and hard to measure, but we see it all the time with headlines, with news, and unless you are telling me media doesn't matter at all, which I would strongly disagree with. I would say it does exercise influence on the electorate. So I do think that Twitter activism has its place, but that place is only in the service of driving likely voters to the polls, or registering voters, or making registered voters who do not normally vote and getting them to actually vote. I think that absolutely is something that we can focus on, and that's something that I try to do on my channel. Is one of the reasons I talk electoral politics at all, is to try to convince my audience that, again, if you don't vote, you don't matter. So if you want to matter, you got to go out there and you got to get into paint, right? You got to actually do the bare minimum of checking that box on that ballot and put it through the scan machine that they got, right? Or drop it in the box, however your locality does it. I think that's very important to do. I also don't think that it's necessarily wrong to excoriate streamers who talk about caring but then do no work whatsoever electorally. I think that it's okay to point out the, oh, you say you care, but you don't actually do anything to drive people to the ballot box, and yeah, you're full of shit. I think that's
And
a
if you
fair
do it
comment.
in the frequency of like once, like you're a streamer who's streaming every day in a lot of cases, and I give whenever I see a streamer, whether it's Vosh he had some like website that he set up for like directing people to um like IRL political work during I think the 2022 cycle. Um they should be applauded for that more than anything. So, and I try to. And when Destiny did his stuff in Georgia, um, what did he do that twice? I think. Um, that's that is the ideal. But it's again, it's the frequency. So this goes back to our conversation before about they should be doing it more than they should be doing stuff like that more often than they are now. I don't think that it's fair to say they should do it every day, but I also don't think that it's like if you level the criticism of these streamers that they're not doing enough to direct their audiences to actual work that'll actually realize the changes that they talk about on stream and talk about on Reddit and Twitter and chats and whatnot. Um, but they should be, if they're going to say, "Well, I did this one thing one time," it's like, so you stream every day, but you can point only to like one day where you in, over the course of how many years, how many days. So those things are awesome. The get together in DC that just happened. That's amazing. Um, I mean, like, can you do that like once every couple months? Once every few months? Um, I, yeah, because the more engaged you are in
Mm.
all this stuff, the more savvy you get. Because you're never gonna. Mike Tyson said, everybody's got a plan until they get punched in the face. Um, all of your all the philosophical conversations that people have on streams and amongst themselves online, that's all well and good that you have carved out your ideal philosophy, but you're never gonna have a sense of how realistic it is, how likely it is, how when it you got to allow that stuff to be confronted with reality, and you're not going to get that online.
I get you. I get you. It is a
So
hard
there's
ask, though.
value in all of it, but it's just a question of what are your highest priorities, and are highest your true highest priorities aligned with how you're spending your time.
Do you think that social media has had overall a positive or a negative influence on politics in general in America?
I I don't know.
Fair enough. Fair
I
enough.
mean,
Uh,
I don't. I think we can point to um, a lot of examples on either direction. And one of the things that I am still fighting um, is I swore when I was working on the Obama campaign, because I took great joy in in killing with kindness all of the like establishment Democrats who were all Team Hillary back then, and we were just like these just obnoxiously hopeful people um that were, I swore I would never become cynical, and after 10 years in the shit, I've become pretty cynical, but I'm trying to keep the perspective that um I shouldn't surrender to the cynicism. And
mm,
uh the reason why I bring that up is because it's easy to say, if I'm just allowing my reactionary cynicism dictate my answer, that politics has been negatively impacted by social media. But then I'm trying to pull myself back and remind myself there's actually probably been a lot of very positive
fair enough.
stuff that's come from
Fair
it
enough.
too.
Another question from my audience for you. What is, and this is from lack of choices, what is, in your opinion, the balance point between closed door sessions, corporate counsel, think Hawaiian version of the city and state lawyer run sessions and meetings, and public transparency? At what point does the service to the public and transparency become counterproductive? So in other words,
Yeah,
should
yeah,
oh,
I get where they're
okay.
coming from. I don't I don't have a like philosophy sort of answer to that because um I always felt like the government institutions I was working in always struck the right balance.
Were
That
all
you
your
should shoot for
deliberations
transparency as well.
were all your
The vast
deliberations matter
majority
of
of them,
public
yes.
record?
The, unless you went actually into closed session, which is usually when you're dealing with like legal matters.
Okay.
Um, so if you're like negotiating on a property, like you've got like a big property development that's happening and maybe the county's involved or the city's involved, they're going to have to go into closed session to talk about things that, you know, are legal contractual minutia, but I think the standard should be very high to go into closed session because I think that um, transparency in governance is um, you should always shoot for as much transparency as possible.
Fair
I guess
enough.
I just haven't seen a lot of instances myself of uh, times
So
when
let
that.
me make the steel man, because I tend to agree with you here. But let me steel man the argument for more behind the closed doors deliberations. One of the problems we have in politics today is both sides not only refusing to work with each other, but being punished for striking any sort of compromise deal or anything that could be seen as giving in, quote unquote, to the other side. So, for example, I believe, what was it, a year or two ago, Biden, in order to get some concessions out of McConnell, promised to not block the appointment or to make an appointment of of someone that was more conservative leaning to a judiciary position. Are you? Does that ring any bells for you?
Yeah, to a degree. I'm
Yes,
I'm
yes.
th- I'm reframing
I
it
don't
in my
have
head
the
to.
I don't have the details off my fingertips, but it's a good example because again, he got excoriated for that, right? He got crushed for that. That was something that his party just downed on him for, but it actively, again, was a benefit to getting people to work together and to getting towards the actual things that Democrats want, right? That was a move towards that goal. And I think that like when everything is public record and you were never allowed to have a private behind closed doors talk with or make deals, right, or make any compromises, because if you're so afraid to openly make any compromise. So uh, I think it's hurt us. I think it's hurt how politics are done. I think that the steel man again would be for or for more privacy for these politicians would be, look, they have to have a space where they can go through back channels and not have everyone go over every single line by line item about what they're talking about, because they need to be able to make these deals so that the government can actually work and actually run, but they're being forbidden from that by extremists and radicals in their own party who will literally, well, vote them out of office for working with the enemy, if you will. So,
Yeah, well, I guess maybe I misunderstood the initial question then. If the question is whether or not I think that like every interaction between any number of elected officials should be like public record, no. I mean, because I don't think that like I don't think that all forms of deal making should be forced into public record either. But there are standards for this where you know you can't have a meeting if you have a if you're an elected official and I'm an elected official, we can get coffee in the morning and talk about you know what's on the agenda for this coming board meeting and maybe we strike some kind of deal between the two of us. That happens all the time, and I think that's fine, but it becomes an issue when we invite, 10 other people, and now suddenly we have quorum. We have enough people present to where this is actually a government meeting that should be
Interesting.
public.
Okay.
Um,
Fair
but
enough.
but I guess a differentiation would be between official meetings and unofficial, like, conversations.
I understand. I get
Yeah.
where you would make those distinctions, especially legally. I'm just wondering. I guess the spirit of my steel man, as it were, wasn't so much a legal thing. It's not an is thing, but an ought thing. Like, ought this be so? And I don't know. Let me ask you another question that I'm curious about. Why are you a Democrat today?
Because
Why are
today
Yeah, today? Why today? Well, I guess I should ask. I'm assuming you're going to vote for Biden in 2024.
I have a painting of him right there. So
That
yeah,
was one of
yeah.
the reasons I
Hmm.
assumed.
Hmm.
Why?
I mean, because the platform of the Democratic Party is the most aligned with my beliefs.
Okay, but what
And
are
it's
the Sell that on me? Sell that like my there's a lot of people in my audience who aren't Democrats, right? And so I'm just curious, like sell them on the Democratic Party. Sell them on it. Give your pitch. What's your speech,
so
Congressman? Right?
here's the so I'm gonna go back. I'm gonna be a politician and be a coward on this one. So remember how I said that there are different roles to play in this collective game of politics. This is where I think that we need to kind of have a reorientation of, because I'm only speaking to the left audience right now. I want to have any conservative listener assume that they shouldn't take any of my advice, because I don't want to give winning advice to the other side. But there are people who are far more gifted at the online persuasion shtick than me. So I don't want to even like pretend that that's
Okay.
my game.
How about this? I'll tell you why
I
I'm
think
voting
most people
Democrat.
go for it.
I'll
This
tell
is
you why
your
I'm voting Democrat. Okay, why I'm voting for Biden, and hopefully this will help. I think that by voting for by voting for Democrats, it is the most likely thing that will support the issues that I care about, such as Ukraine. I think that funding for Ukraine is one of the most important issues of our day. That
as do I.
this has so many ramifications on the world stage, and if we want the U.S. to remain a superpower coming up into this next century, we absolutely need to stand against both Russia and China. And Ukraine is the thin end of the wedge on the. It is the fulcrum. It is the catalyst for all of this. If Ukraine falls, we are in for a world of hurt, gang. Taiwan is watching America right now to see if we continue to support Ukraine, even through all the hardship that things are going through. Because if we fail to support Ukraine, why would we ever support Taiwan? Right? Why would we ever stand up against China and Taiwan? So withdrawing support from Ukraine is a disaster. And so one of the big reasons I'm voting for Biden in 2024 is his continual commitment towards Ukraine. I don't think Trump would commit to Ukraine at all. I think Trump would fold in an almost instant. I think Vivek or most of the other Republican candidates would also fold. It's too much of a risk to vote Republican this time. Another reason I'm voting for the Democratic Party is because I, again, believe in pro-choice. Again, abortion makes me severely uncomfortable, but I think the government has no place in telling a woman what they can and cannot do with their reproductive rights. That is another reason I'm supporting Biden. The third reason I can think off the top of my head that I'm supporting Biden is that I think that it's going to bring us closer to having universal health care. Health care is a huge issue for me personally. There's a lot of my family who desperately needs it. I think that the insurance companies are scamming people. I think It's not perfect what the Biden's trying to do, but I think he's much better on this than Republicans. So those are 3 reasons. And I will say, I'm going to just being totally clear with you right now. The fact that you weren't able to answer this, like, just, I don't know, like,
No, so
why aren't
let
you able
me,
to tell me an answer? Why are you a Democrat? It should be easy.
because no, because in my mind, and I'm thinking about this through the lens of the local politics conversation, and also just
Mm.
uh my background in campaign management. I'm thinking of, when you ask me to do that, my first thought is, who's my audience? And then when I go to that question in my head, the next one is, are these persuadable people? So I don't think that do you think that there's a significant number of persuadable people in your chat or watching your
I don't
streams
know.
who aren't sure if they're going to vote for Biden or for Trump?
I don't know.
Like, I just,
That's the
dude,
honest answer. I don't know. But
yes, you do.
do I?
I'm pretty sure in your heart of hearts, the number of persuadable. I mean, I don't have chat open, but I would
I
love to
understand.
see like a
So I
digital
will give
raise
you,
of
in my
hands.
state of Pennsylvania, the difference between a Trump and a Biden presidency in 2020 was about 20,000 votes.
Right.
Okay. So
That's
even if
cool.
there's like 1 or 2 in my audience that might be persuadable, I think it's very important
I don't
to
think
be
that.
on, right?
I
Like
love you,
I
Rick.
I guess
I don't
I
think that
guess
people go to
well,
WhickTV if they are not like super political nerds already and aren't
they look,
persuadable.
it's
And
for my
there's
beard.
also a very, people who say like they're independent, or people will say they're persuadable, but they're actually, you're just gonna end up in a never-ending conversation with these people. This goes to the whole thing about,
But we're not.
like,
You're
what
having a
time are you?
conversation with me, and look, I'm not asking you like a hard question here. Why are you a
I
Democrat?
I don't think that it's a very useful question.
Maybe
That's the
not,
reason why I didn't
but
answer it
it's
that way.
weird that you can't tell me why. It's
I mean,
weird.
I could, but like, who am I trying to convince? Like, because
Just be
if I'm
honest with
trying to
it. Why?
convince an old, if I'm gonna try to convince you, let's say I didn't know that you were obviously gonna vote Democrat in 2024, versus the old lady down the street who has a very different worldview, who has, my pitch is going to be completely different.
Sure, but I'm not asking. Okay, I'm asking you why you vote Democrat. Why
Okay, so
you?
if you want to, if you want me to go through the, like, the policy stuff,
Just give me a one.
climate change
Climate
has
change. Gotcha.
been my
Climate change.
number one issue
Excellent.
since I got involved in this, when I was a teenager. It's been my number one, and I don't see any reason to believe that the Republican Party's gonna, I mean, acknowledge that it's man-made, let alone actually try to make a concerted effort to address it. And the Democratic Party, I think that they should certainly embrace nuclear energy more than they do currently. But overall, if I'm trying to decide between either or, and the condition of the planet is an important factor for me, then it's a no-brainer that I'm going to vote for the Democratic Party. On every social issue, whether it's income inequality or racial inequality, I see the Democratic Party as having a much better approach, one that is, yeah, just superior in
Sure.
every way.
That's a fair answer. That's
I
an
mean,
honest
Ukraine is
answer.
certainly
I'm gonna.
a massive one for
Yeah,
me
I
too.
understand. I understand. Let
See
me
now, see
let me
now what
let
I'm
me tell
giving you
you
the
why
answer. Yeah,
I'm.
that's kind of boring to hear all that.
No, it's
And I'm like,
not.
wait,
It's not.
well,
Look, let me tell you why this is bothering me. Okay, and I'm going to
please.
be honest with you why it's bothering me, because people aren't persuaded by your political positions. They don't care what you believe. They care why you believe it, and
Yeah,
they care about your genuine nature, right? Even ever since the Bush election, right? It's who you want to have a beer with. Okay, people vote
totally.
on personalities. People vote on if they trust you. Okay,
Hmm.
if they trust you, and the more they trust you, the more influence you have with them. So they could disagree with you 100% on policy-wise, and a lot of people in my audience do. But my audience, for the most part, trusts me because I'm just genuine with them. If someone asks me what I think, I tell them what I think. I don't look to see who's watching first. I don't look around to see who's looking first. And no, if I may finish,
Okay, go ahead.
If I may finish, right? Then this is, I think, why Democrats lose elections, because we refuse to just be plain spoken with these things, not try to wiggle our way out of it and just say, hey, climate change is really important to me, and that's why I'm Democrat. It could be easy. We could have been on with this, but now this is a thing, and I'm bothered by this. I'm bothered by this, OldManLondre. I'm bothered by this. I can't be. I can't lie to you. This bothers me that this. I thought this super simple question was gonna be super simple answered, and now it's a thing. So here we are.
Oh, did we just originate some beef?
It's not beef. It's just annoyance. Okay, now I wasn't gonna do this, but now I am. What about the hogs? 40 to 70 feral hogs. Should a farmer be able to defend himself and his land?
Should they be able to kill
40 to 70 feral hogs?
Feral hogs.
Yes.
Yes, they should be able to kill them. I'm a vegetarian. I think they should be able to kill them. They do incredible damage to the ecology of places where they are incredibly invasive.
Okay.
They're incredibly aggressive, and they should be able to be exterminated.
Beautiful.
How you exterminate them, I think, is where there is a necessary conversation.
What do you mean?
So there are a million different ways that any living thing could be killed.
What's your favorite?
Quick and with as little pain and suffering as possible.
Fair enough. I asked this because I don't think it's out of line or out.
Wait, can you give people context of why you're bringing this up?
Yes, because one of my chatters asked, Weaponized Discourse asked me to ask you, and I think that I saw y'all's back and forth on Twitter about this, and I didn't care that much to weigh in, to be clear, but it's weird to me that people get up in arms about this. Hogs are dangerous, right? You can't go kill them with a spear or something. They will kill your ass, right? Like they will trample you to death and gore you. So you have to shoot them with guns. Mm-hmm. And I think it's perfectly reasonable to get in a car with your buddies and go and shoot some hogs that are invading your land. I think that's okay.
Yeah. Just so like I don't hunt myself, but I'm actually a pro hunting vegetarian because I feel like there's that's a whole nother thing. Sure. I know hundreds of hunters, and most of my family hunts deer. Deer season's coming up in Wisconsin pretty soon here. There are a lot of different ways that you can shoot a deer and have it die. You could shoot it without really caring where you place your crosshair, where your bullet actually ends up going, and how long it takes for the deer to bleed out. And do you hit it in the right spot so that it's not going to get away from you? And when you can't find it, then not only do you not get to retrieve what you just hunted, but it died over a very extended period of time. The preference is what hunters are taught is to shoot in a very specific zone on their torso, so that they will die as quickly as possible.
Dying as quickly as possible, OldManLondre 2023. That's what he's advocating. No, I'm kidding. Yeah. But no, it's just, look, I one of the things that I push back against all the time is this sense of couching of going mask on for things. I understand that in different audiences, you have to code switch.
That's not why I did it, though.
Okay, well, tell me why.
Because I assume people didn't come here to hear me talk about why I'm a Democrat.
Why?
They because they came here presumably because we were going to talk about local politics, and
Sure.
I assume that the majority of the audience already was Democratic.
No.
No?
Most of my audience aren't Democratic, I don't think.
Okay. Well,
But
okay. How many of them are persuadable?
I don't know, right? Because you can
But I'm
never trust
asking them.
someone.
I'll have to go back and
Yeah, I don't know how many. Okay, but I'll say this.
I don't want to waste people's time.
Absolutely, and this wasn't even supposed to be a gotcha. I wasn't trying to trap you or anything, but
You didn't get me, so it's
I
okay.
as fair enough. But like when I ask right you to come on and talk about your electoral experience, to talk about electoral politics, to talk about like how Democrats can win, I mean, one of the questions obviously is going to be why you think how you think, why you work for how you do. I don't know why this was a surprise. I
Here, I
don't.
think here's where I think, at least for me, there was a disconnect.
Sure.
Um, at least where I'm from, our local politics, our local elected officials, they're all nonpartisan. And I at least was in the mental framework of like I wasn't talking about my campaign
Sure.
experience in when like right when that converse or that question came up. So I mean like, but I explained to you like why I got attracted to Obama, and when I was an organizing fellow, we had this whole thing where we learned how to tell our story and how to tell our why. Like, why did we get involved? What did draw us to this candidate? But just like, why are you a Democrat? That's like a very open, general question, and I wasn't exactly sure how
I
it
understand.
related.
I used to knock on doors too. Um, I've done a little bit of canvassing. I won't say a
Good
lot,
for you.
but
Here's something you should do, Wick. You should ask next time you have any conversation like this with a streamer who's like
mm,
doling out political advice or telling you how wrong you are. Ask them how many doors they've knocked on in their life, because usually when I ask them, it's zero.
sure. Well, I have a weird kind of one up on this because I did knock doors for 2 years of my life, not as a political streamer, but I was a Mormon missionary,
Yeah.
and so it's not so different. Obviously, the goals are different. There's a lot of different ways of doing it, but the concept of changing minds and persuading people to take action on their lives is pretty similar. And again, the action I was asking people to take was a lot more involved than simply going to a voting place and voting once every so often when a local election comes up. Obviously, much different. However, uh, one of the things that I found was helpful, like people think this doesn't work. It absolutely does, right? Like if anyone tells you that face-to-face conversations don't persuade people, they're lying to you. This happens all
Totally.
the time, and I would go so far as to say that the same happens online. Like again, anyone who says that they have no persuadable people in their chat or watching them, if they have over 10 people in their chat, they're lying to you. There is at least one or two, and even if they're not persuaded in this single conversation or even over the course of months, you have planted seeds as they've heard and ingested and consumed, as we say, your content that
You know what?
may be harvested later, that may be sprouted later. So when you say how many people are persuadable in my audience, I don't know, but I know it's not zero. And I
You know
know
what?
that people
I will
watch me.
concede that.
Okay, I win.
I think you make a very good point. And to tie it back to like the like gamesmanship and the strategery, as Bush would have said, of winning votes, to get somebody from, so it, just bear with me, in the political world, at least on the Democratic side, you've got ones through fives. You have one are the people who will respond to you saying, "I absolutely know I'm going to vote for you." Strong supporter. Five, strong against. No way in hell am I going to vote for you. Three, undecided. Two is leaning your way. Three or 4 would be leaning the other way. To get somebody to move from not with you to with you generally takes 7 hits. So 7 interactions with your campaign, whatever you're advocating for. 7 solid interactions. So that could be a combination of a knock on your door, a mailer that you get in your mailbox, an ad you might see or hear. But yard signs, like that's mostly for the candidate's ego. But my reason of bringing that up is because I think it actually bolsters your point that with enough, but I think enough thoughtful.
Consistent interaction that is a positive in nature, building a relationship of trust with those and those you're trying to reach out to, so that they trust you enough to make life-changing decisions. At least that's how we would frame it in the religious sense. This can be
Yeah.
translated, because I think persuasion is persuasion, whether it be political, personal, or religious in nature. And I think that it absolutely translates in a one-for-one fashion to political persuasion as well. I agree with you there. The more interactions they have, the more positive interactions they have, the more likely they are to lean over. Are you going to get everyone? Absolutely not. But we're not going to, that's not the goal, is to get everyone. The goal is to get as many people as we can. And that number, again, is not 0. And when we're working on margins of 3 votes, in your case, right? 3 votes. That could be WhickTV viewers right now in the chat. Like, that could be WhickTV viewers right now in the chat. So these things we have to, like, we have to stop being so doomer about this, to being like so black-pilled, like, oh, we have to stop being so narrow. I understand why politicians have to be narrow and focused in these things, but we are acting on their behalf in ways that they cannot. And I think that's what the power of streamers combined with politicians has, is I can do things and say things that a politician absolutely cannot, in order to help advocate for them to be elected, so they can represent my causes that I want them to represent. And I think that, like, for example, I can work with people that politicians would be a death sentence to work for. I could work for very right-leaning people that politicians simply can't. But we can ally ourselves and get them to add, and hopefully persuade them to work on our behalf to support our policies in X, Y, and Z. And again, compromise is a feature, not a bug. If we can compromise with them on what we can compromise. So
Yeah, and I think this your earlier analogy of the funnel makes what you're saying a lot easier to understand. That and it kind of combines with what I was talking about, the different roles that are to be played here. I'm, as you said, at least my background is in the very narrow part of that funnel, and I don't think it would be fair to expect, and I don't think it actually would be wise to expect streamers to be dishing out granular political advice to people when that's not their core competency. Because my core competency, I don't think I have what it takes to be like a consistent political streamer. I don't
I
see
mean,
it. I
well,
don't
first
feel it.
thing you have to do is be able to tell people why you're a Democrat. That's step 1. Once you
But
get
I
through
don't.
that,
But
I
I
think
don't.
you could do it.
I'm not motivated. Some people are really motivated to do that, and I spent so much of my life doing that. I mean, I was chair of our local party, and I did a pretty good job when I was very focused on the persuading people to vote Democratic and broadcasting why I'm a Democrat and all that stuff. But I'm not doing that stuff anymore because it's my choice not to. I got tired of
Yeah,
doing
that's
it.
fine.
I know why I'm a Democrat. I'm just so not used to anybody asking me
Fair enough. No, fair
why.
enough. Fair enough. Um, do you mind if we ask for callers? Pete, do you mind taking a few? I don't want to keep you too long, right?
Totally.
Yeah. Gang,
You
if you're
got until my
watching this,
phone dies on me.
sure. If you're watching this and you have questions for OldManLondre here, feel free to call in and ask him. Exclamation point in Discord and chat. Jump, accept the rules, and then jump into the backstage. It's at the top of the thing, and we'll pull you on. We'll talk to you for a bit. Also, if you would like this content, if you enjoyed this kind of talk that we've had, hit that like button. If you're on YouTube, hit that subscribe button. Consider throwing bits my way, throwing super chats my way, throwing any sort of monetary support my way. It all helps the channel. It helps me do more content like this, where we can ask those, again, penetrating, thought-provoking questions that you love to see from WhickTV. Okay, let's see who we got in the lineup. Hold on. I switch between so much. Gang, come on, jump backstage. I'll give him a few minutes. Give him a few minutes. Takes him a minute. It always takes one to break the seal, right? Like, so this is how my call-in shows usually go. Usually we got crickets for a couple minutes, and then someone will be brave enough to come on, ask a couple questions, and we'll.
I'm just gonna let anybody you call in. You ask what you want, but if you want to have like philosophy, I read this. There's like this obscure philosopher. Oh, I've seen that person before. I can talk with them.
Okay, you can talk. This one's allowed. Okay, cool.
I don't have a blacklist. I don't have blacklist. Hello.
You're live.
Excellent. Hey, so old man, I missed the first part of the conversation. Can you hear me?
Mm-hmm.
So, I was an early follower of yours for the YouTube videos and everything because I really did see that you wanted to make political changes. And then last year with the Destiny stuff with Keffels, I saw a side of vitriol and hatred I haven't seen from a lot of people. And I just wanted to ask, what made you change?
I don't know if there's like change, because I feel like I had like a period where it was not the best version of myself. It was not productive. I think I leaned in too much into trying to build the audience the way that I interpreted other people were building audiences, of leaning into drama and unproductive, almost Sunday type stuff of tearing people down. And eventually just kind of, what was it? So actually there was a turning point where I was going to criticize Vosh, and somebody in his sphere of influence threatened to blackmailed me on Twitter, to say,
was that the gay fish guy?
Yeah, if you release this upcoming video you've talked about, I'm going to release all of our DMs. That was a turning point for me. This is why it's relevant, because that turning point for me was like, oh fuck, I have really allowed myself to kind of go astray. And I'm
Whoa. What kind of DMs were you worried about being released?
No, I wasn't. So I wasn't worried. Because I always assume, if I say something in a DM, given the nature of how people seem to operate in this space, you got to operate like it's going to get leaked. That's just my very pessimistic but safe mentality. And so this person thought that it would be a definite way to make me not release this video. And I said, you're not going to blackmail me into silence. So here, I'll do you one better, and I'll release all of our DMs. And I did. And I said some mean stuff about a couple people, including Sansol, who I immediately, right after releasing it, I said, hey, I want to apologize for what I said in these messages.
What did you say to Sansol?
I don't even remember what it was, but probably something
to the fact that he was a bigot or transphobe or
something along those
that
lines.
wasn't purity testing.
Oh, that's so weak. Come on, we want more juice than that. I wanted you to call him something like.
The reason why I'm bringing him up in particular is because he immediately said, "Not a big deal. I get it. Whatever. It's bullshit that they were trying to blackmail you." Yep. And I love the guy. I mean, he's one of the people I
only
like
know
in the
all of
space.
this because I was behind a block. You blocked me because I asked you a few questions about, why are you so hard on Destiny when he's doing real political action? Because this was around I want to say this was around the Georgia time when I went down there, and you were just so angry that he associated with Mr. Girl, if I remember correctly,
That
and
was a
Lauren
good one, yeah.
Southern. That's what it was. That's what it was. And it's really
Part of
funny.
it.
I'm kind of using you as a catalyst,
Please, excuse
seeing
me.
the like Keffels people who are realizing their mistakes and coming around, seeing how President Sunday is acting right now, and seeing how politically ineffective and drama filled they are.
Yeah.
So far, and it's a hard thing to like retroactively, to introspect on like, oh wow, I was a real piece of shit because I assumed these people were evil because they were doing all the drama, but now I see them doing actual political action.
I will say,
that
I even when I was like in my Destiny hate arc, um, I very consistently applauded and encouraged all of the direct action work he was doing. But I also have made amends with him too. I'm not gonna like try to pretend like I wasn't uh being more of an asshole than I should have been, or that's even my usual character. Um, you say the things you say, and then you try your best to make amends if, you're willing to do that. And, every time you try to make amends and try to not just make amends, but uh, show up in a better, more productive way, um, you know, you have to accept that like these people might not accept your apologies. But I
sure.
think they've all kind of been there to some degree before. It's easy to get wrapped up in and consumed in the
Well,
stuff that gives you engagement and
it's profitable. It's profitable. The amount of
yeah.
money you make by leaning in to the drama stuff is far more than you get. You get far more engagement. You get far more clicks. You got far more viewership. Um, Again, my Sunday manifesto stream, hundreds of viewers. This stream, tens. Right?
Yay!
Like it's a
Woo-hoo! That is a
substantive
good 10
difference,
though,
right?
baby.
Well, we got more than 10. We got like overall over both platforms we have about
Well,
60 or so.
I will say
But
there is a difference between having a YouTube essayist versus a political streamer like Sunday, right? Like I get what you're saying, Wick, but I think that's probably why, because I think Old Man's clout isn't as high because of YouTube essayists are kind of, they have a lot more hard work in front of them, I think, than a political streamer that does it, in the middle of the night, ranting and raving behind a bookshelf. Okay. Um,
And
and I
I will
look
say,
forward
just in my
to.
defense too, I
Oh, go
did
ahead.
unblock you. I did unblock you, so you're not.
True, true. You
So it was
did,
a
and
brief. It was
I
brief.
unfollowed you because you said something else, and I can't
Son of a
remember what
bitch.
it was. But to save me, but yeah. Anyway, I
Son
Twitter's
of a
a
bitch.
terrible space to
any
have
other
any sort of
questions
discourse
before
in.
we let you go, sir?
No, the last thing, I hope that in a year we could see President Sunday do the same thing. We're going to see him do a full revolution,
I
a
hope he
full
does.
turn.
I hope he gets better.
Yeah,
Me too.
Yeah.
yeah.
But for now,
All right,
buddy,
thanks.
we'll see you later.
Bye bye.
Any more questions? Any more caller inners for our friend OldManLondre? Anyone want to take him to task or agree with him, or I don't know, just ask him a basic question, see what he does.
Oh, I was supposed to tell you, Wick,
Mm.
because this happened before. There's a guy who said he wanted to call in and argue about
Oh,
some
the
things that
fascist guy? Yeah, that
yeah,
guy's trying to get on my stream a lot, right?
I
And I've let him
assumed.
call in a couple times, Woland or something.
Mhm.
Woland. Um, I
I made a deal with him that if he would be willing to show his face and put his face behind his words, then
yeah,
I'd have a debate, but he refuses to do that. So
fair enough, fair enough.
pussy.
It's one of those things where like, look, if If you want to come on and talk to me, it has to be under very strict conditions. In that case, if you're an open fascist, right? I have to set the stage, if you will. Otherwise,
Well, there are also TOS
yeah.
things that can pretty quickly bite you in the butt.
But for now, okay. We're gonna give it another 2 minutes or so people can call in, and if no one calls in, we'll just kind of end this segment of the stream.
You know
I
what?
want to
Wick?
thank
I'm gonna have to make a video essay of my own now of why I'm a Democrat.
Please do. I would watch that
Because
on
now I
stream.
feel very ashamed that I gave
That's fair.
I gave an answer you were not.
Well,
pleased
don't be
with.
ashamed because I wasn't happy with it. Be ashamed because it was a shit answer. It was a
Well,
shit answer. You recognize that,
for
right?
you. Well, after the fact, of course.
Well, yeah, it's hard in the moment to recognize it. Absolutely. Look, I've given shit answers too. I'm with you. Okay, it happens to the best of us. But yeah, I think that the very first question anyone should be able to answer: why do you vote how you vote, or why don't you vote? Right? If you don't vote.
Here's a trick. Was a very tricky one. When you're running for a nonpartisan office, and somebody asks you, "Are you a Democrat or a Republican?"
Be honest. Always. I'm Democrat, but I represent all the constituents. I personally lean left, but I'll represent you no matter whether you left, right, or center.
That is more or less what I ended up saying.
Yep, basically. I think that this kind of this I won't say it's new because it's not new, but this resurgence in lying to get your way that I've seen on the left.
You're calling me a liar now. This is
Not
a disaster.
Not you. Not you. I'm just referring to because you asked the question.
People
what would you say to people? I said I'd be honest. Now I'm explaining why honesty is better than lying and saying what you think other people would hear. That's what I'm doing. This has nothing to do with you at this point. I'm saying this because lies will always get you in the end, right? People will always figure it out,
Totally.
whether it's today or tomorrow. And as soon as they do, you've lost all credibility. So maybe you got what you wanted in the short term from this. Maybe you got whatever single law you passed, but then that's it. You're done. You're cooked. No one's ever going to believe you again. So the policy is don't lie. Where none of us are perfect. None of us.
I will endorse that.
But if you do engage in power politic, lie to get what you want, things like that, just recognize there's a ticking clock on your influence.
Do you think that's still?
Yes, I think that's still
in
true.
modern times still
yes,
true?
Absolutely. Look at how many people simply do not trust institutions anymore because they've been lied to by those institutions for quote unquote good reasons, right? And no one trusts the media anymore because the media has lied to them over and over again. We are at an all-time low in trust in the education system and so many of our institutions. And yes, there are a lot of reasons for that are unfounded, but at the core of it is these people have been lied to. They straight up have. And
well, is it possible too that okay, media, I would, that's probably where I'm most conservative is with like I'm very pro good media, but I would side with a lot of more conservative takes about where our media is now. They are incredibly dishonest, very like sensationalist and all that other stuff. And yeah, dishonest. But on the institution side, I think in a lot of cases, it's that they've been lied to about the institutions.
That too. That as well.
But
right?
but
that happens
I guess
as well.
my
yes.
question initially was more about: do you think that that's reflected in our elected officials, and do you think that it's reflected in our political influencers?
Sure.
The honesty part.
Can you elaborate on the elected officials part? Are you talking about?
Do you think
feel
that people,
most politicians are honest today? Is that what you're asking me?
No.
Okay.
Because I mean, like the obvious answer is not. But okay. I mean, I will ask you that then.
Sure.
Just that's one question.
I think that enough of them aren't that it's something you can't really trust politicians anymore. I think enough of them aren't honest that I really, unless I have leverage over them or have they have some reason to believe they're going to act in their self
Do you
interest. No, I don't
do you
trust them.
think that the average, like if you took the
Averagely,
average
now there
politician
are
today versus like 20 years ago, do you think that the trend is that they're getting more honest or less honest?
I think that it's going to be more honest actually.
Hmm.
Do you know why? Because there are more chances for people to catch them on lies than ever before. Like they're in front of cameras more than ever before, right? I think that
But
with
are
with
they
TikToks,
broken?
with influencers, with the amount of cell phones people have all the time, everywhere, in every occasion, right? They can't censor their image or frame their image as much as they could back when it was just news organizations covering them and
That's
things like
fair.
that, or going in front of a set interview. Now they have to be on all the time, right? Um, and I
But
think that
do you think that they're when they are caught, you say they're dead, they're toast, they're kapoots, like they're
no,
done.
I don't know if that's ever been true, honestly. I think that like
Okay, do you think it's more true now than it used to be? Like
ah
20, 30 years ago?
no, I think that's the thing. It's less true now than it used to be. I think it's less true now than it used to be. I think that you have these two things kind of, and I know these are kind of seem contradictory, but let me explain, right? The tendency to be more honest and open is absolutely out there because everyone's out in front of the cameras, but the punishment for lying is less than it
Mhm.
has been before because we've gotten more and more polarized in this. If people can lie just outright and say, "Yeah, I lied. I don't care. Fuck them," because I lied to hurt the other side. And I
Yeah.
think that more and more that is catching on, and I don't like that. Now, that said, that only works when you're a public facing official. That doesn't work for the rank and file. I think that for the rank and file, your influence is tied to your honesty more
Hmm.
because you
That's
are
true.
not the soldier, right? You are expendable in that case. We look at these things with like a soldier's mindset. And so we choose our champions or elected officials. And so we have a tendency to run cover for them and excuse their lies, excuse their bad behaviors because they are here as our champions to defeat the enemy. The lessers, right? The orbiters, the taggers on, don't get that kind of protection. They don't. And if they are shown to be ineffective and or dishonest, they tend to be purity tested out. If that
Hmm.
makes sense. That's the general. There are obviously exceptions to this. It's just my intuition to be clear, but that's my answer. So,
Interesting.
what's your answer?
Wait, what's my answer?
Yeah, same question.
I'm gonna have to ask.
Are politicians getting more or less honest? And is honesty being rewarded or punished more or less?
I my experience was always that, and I think that it has only amplified, that it was a great disappointment to me when I really got into politics in the beginning, and then certainly as an elected official, that honesty is not rewarded. Um, and there's a difference between uh, lying and not speaking the truth. I think that people are rewarded in the political space. They're rewarded more often for just not necessarily lying, but not actually
Keeping their
saying the thing.
mouths shut.
Yeah. Um, I don't think that people have ever cared about truth in politics as long as I've been involved as much as they say they do.
Fair. That's a fair point. I agree with
And I
that.
and I
Like,
do think that as a whole, um, I think that the average politician is equally as dishonest as they ever have been. But I'm actually not here to. Um, I don't. I think it's very hurtful and damaging to a democracy We label every person who exhibits an interest in public service as somehow being suspect and probably a bad person, because then you are only guaranteeing that you're going to get the worst people. And that's also one of the reasons why, like, there's a huge conversation we could have about compensation for elected officials. So, and it varies so much. So, like, when I was on the county board, I made like $300 a month.
Damn.
I mean, it was a part-time job, but if you actually looked at the amount of work that I was doing and you know, did all the math, it was way sub minimum wage. And then on the other side of the state, the county board in Milwaukee, granted it's a full-time job and so on and so forth, but they're making like $60,000 a year. I mean, and with all these other, you know, great
Perks,
benefits, but
bonuses, etc.
it's when people say, you know, it was more appropriate in my situation was the more ideal one, because you shouldn't be in it for the money.
That's retarded.
It's completely retarded.
It is. If
Because
you
then
want,
you're
I want my politicians to be paid by the U.S. government, not by Goldman Sachs. So I want their checks to be cut by the U.S. Treasury, the Department
but I
of
wasn't getting
Treasury.
paid anything.
I understand, but you understand
but
how
here's the other,
that influence would be there, right?
the-
If you're only making $300 at a job, but you have this position of influence, even if it's minor, you are subject more to bribery than you would be otherwise,
Well,
or corruption, or lobbying.
Yeah, I mean, I was gonna say like direct corruption is, but it's an important, like, this is one of my high horse things that I really care about, and I think it could be a future point of debate. But that when you look, if you looked at the county board I was a part of, there weren't a lot of people that looked like me. It was a lot of people. It looked like a retirement home, basically.
Sure.
And the reason for that is because if you have an environment where you're not paying people to, because and this is actually for your conservative audience too, who feels like why aren't there more average people, like people that look like me, in places of elected office? If you aren't getting paid like anything for a very important, demanding job, one that you would want people to take very seriously, if you're not going to pay them, who can afford to do that? Who has the time and the exceptional level of
Who can
resources?
still live while doing
Right.
this job? Yeah.
Old people who are retired, or really rich people.
Yep.
And usually a combination of the two.
Yep.
So you're never going to have, you know, a plurality of people who are representative of the actual general population.
I'm with you on this. We got one more caller. Let's bring him in. Hey, you're live.
Oh, hey guys.
Yeah. What's up? You got a question for us?
I was hoping you guys could help me out. I was listening into the stream, and I'm always late to these things because I'm on the West Coast and I work till 5, so I apologize.
That's okay. It's recorded. You can go back and look at the parts you missed. But go on.
True.
Wait, he's a Seahawks fan. Hold on.
Oh. What do we got? Oh, all right. That's where we're going. Okay.
All right.
Okay.
We're good now.
I was hoping to hear you guys help me out with a little bit on how you guys define dishonesty. Because I, in my personal opinion, find that politicians don't tend to lie almost at all. And I'm really curious to hear you guys talk a little bit about what that definition looks like.
So when I speak about dishonesty, there are lies of commission and lies of omission, and also making promises that you know you cannot keep. And I think that is the biggest lie that politicians do. They know they cannot get these things done, and yet they promise them anyway. Or they know the likelihood is so far down there, and yet they promise the moon but deliver cheese, right? Like they promise the world, but you get almost nothing. I think that politicians need to be more open and honest about what they believe, what they think is possible, and work towards those goals. But instead, they are encouraged to be dishonest because in this way and this way alone, that their voters say, unless you're going to promise me free healthcare in the next 5 months, I'm not voting for you. And they're like, okay, free healthcare in the next 5 months, knowing full well that's just not on the cards, right? And so I think that that is the biggest form of dishonesty we see in politicians. What do you think?
I would agree with most of what you said. I would emphasize that from my experience, it also cuts the opposite way, where, and maybe this is just more of a local phenomenon that, and probably is tied to who tends to be representative there, um, that they're dishonest about what is possible too. So, um, I mean, in a local sense, I mean, like an easy one would be about like housing policies or economic development, that they, or you could even, talk about healthcare, because counties tend to do a lot of work with health and human services stuff. Um, there is a dishonesty about what is possible. They know that they could do more. So I'll give you a example that I encountered. This is probably my biggest regret from my time as an elected official. I began the process of trying to push our leadership, and at that point, the county board was overwhelmingly represented by Democratic-minded people. So it's still nonpartisan, but we knew who was on which side. I was trying to get a living wage ordinance passed. So guaranteeing that not only would the county's workers get a living wage, they shouldn't be, because if the county is going to be providing, benefits and services to low income people, we shouldn't be adding to the number of low income people. Um, and it's just the right thing to do to make sure that people have a living wage, and that all of the contractors that contract with the county, they should guarantee that their employees doing work on county projects, that they should be paid a living wage too, so that we don't just say, oh, county employees should have a living wage, and then we're just going to revert to, okay, then we'll just privatize everything. I knew it was possible. It was something that was being implemented in other municipalities all over the country. I knew it was something, I had a decent enough understanding of our budget to know it was something we could do. But I was dissuaded from doing that by the Democratic progressive leadership, by behind closed doors, them basically echoing every conservative argument against that policy, but they were too afraid to say that publicly. And I was too, I get new and I guess intimidated by my mentors basically saying, don't you bring up this thing, because it's going to be a headache for us. It's not something that we want to be pushing for. Um, but I think it was like 6 or 7 years after I left the board, those same people who persuaded me not to push that were getting headlines for championing that very same thing that they said wasn't possible. So I think Wick is right that maybe more so on the federal level, uh, candidates usually on the left have a habit of promising way too much, um, without being as honest about like how hard it is going to be to achieve that, which then just feeds, you know, pessimism. And you get people are like, oh, well, I voted in one election. I voted for Joe Biden, and look, Roe gets overturned. It's like, but it wasn't because Joe Biden got elected that Roe was overturned. That got overturned because conservatives have been voting in every fucking election, from local dog catcher to the president, every chance they get, and they have worked diligently. Whereas our people, my people, I guess, I don't want to be presumptive of your politics, like to just, too often go like, oh, well, I voted like once and I didn't get everything I wanted. But other than that, philosophically, ditto to what Wick said in fewer words.
Well, and I think Nikki Haley rightfully pointed out on the Republican debate stage a bit of the overpromising on the right as well, especially when it comes to like abortion mandates federally. and pointing out that everyone on stage was talking about their different plans for it and not acknowledging that they didn't have the votes in the Senate to get anything that they were talking about passed anyway, and that it would never happen. So I think that's fair, and if that's the way you operate from thinking about dishonesty, then there's probably a good amount of that, not only willfully um, disregarding how difficult something might be or like how big a promise is, but also like just dreaming too big and over promising. And if those are dishonesty, then I guess I'd have to be on board, because I think I see that too. So I think you pulled me around on this one, guys.
Well, and I also
Persuadable
just want,
people in my chat. I told you this is demonstrated. Here we
well,
go.
I persuaded him to be persuadable, but that's neither here nor there. What I was gonna say too, that one of the things that was kind of an eye-opening experience of being an elected official, and even when I wasn't, but I was still going to like city and county meetings almost every night for a couple of years. And I mean, like I said, these are like, 7:30 p.m., weird committee side meeting rooms.
Yep, I went to my city council meeting last night. I feel
yeah, so you know what I'm talking about. That there's a persistent, like, reflexive thing that people do where they say, like, well, the dishonest politicians are the root problem. But we live in a representative democracy, and so you have to ask yourself, why are they acting that way? Because that's the behavior the voters are rewarding. And I'm not saying that that's good behavior to be rewarding. I would say the opposite. But it's like this you always look at the disapproval rating of Congress, but then you look at the re-election rate of members of Congress, because everybody's under this like weird illusion that like every politician's bad except mine. But I would posit that we're never going to fix any of these like issues we have with our politicians and with our government by blaming the politicians only and assuming that they're the ones who have to take responsibility, but then forgetting that voters actually are the ones who have the most responsibility here.
That's the biggest thing, and why I wanted to come in and push back a little bit on what dishonesty looked like, because I find too much demonization of politicians, and I really dislike it, because like as far as I can see, most of them are just trying their best to govern the way that they see would work. Um, in fact, even in my local city, forgive me for a tangent, but um, my mayor had a house that she was renting out, and that house hit national news because a guy built a cinder block like cave in her garage and kidnapped somebody and kept her there, and she escaped, and it hit national news, and they were like, "Oh yeah, the mayor was renting out that house." I shake hands with my mayor regularly. She's like the sweetest old lady. She just rented a house to a guy, and he was a shithead. Um, but it came down to like, oh yeah, evil politicians, and I'm like, I don't know how I can stand the idea of like, oh yeah, all these people are evil just because they got elected to an office.
They're not.
Well,
I don't think I hope I haven't given that impression, but I will say that you shouldn't just inherently trust your politician either. You should trust but verify, I think, as Reagan said. And
I actually used that line at a city council meeting once when I was advocating for there was a hospital, the biggest employer in our metro area wanted to tear down a block of housing and make a parking lot. And I was the only person who like put up a huge stink about it, not because my house was going to go away, but because I was like, this, for one, that's just wrong. But two, this goes completely against a public document that the city council approved of, that the the medical institution that they signed, that they were going to adhere to this campus development policy. And it was like, this block of housing was not supposed to be turned into a parking lot. We're supposed to be getting rid of our parking lots in our neighborhoods. But then I went before the city council and I was like, we can't we can't just take them at their word that this isn't going to be a surface parking lot forever, because I guarantee it will always be a surface parking lot. They have never once gotten rid of a surface park. Well, I should say never once, but they're not going to. They're not going to invest a bunch of money into building a brand new, pretty parking lot and then just tear it out 2 weeks later. So then I said, we need to have a condition, if you're going to approve this as a city council, to make sure that you trust them, but verify that, there's a legally binding thing that says you got to get rid of this in a couple years by this date. Well, wouldn't you know, I that time has since passed since moved from that city, and guess what? Parking lot is still there.
Noted. Well, Extra, thank you for calling in.
Thanks for
I
entertaining my
appreciate
question.
the pushback, and of course, we'll see you later. Okay, Londre, old man, I think it's time. Thank you for being here. Is there anything you want to say as a closing statement, and where can people find you?
You can find me on YouTube and on Twitter at OldManLondre. But
Check them out.
if you're a friend of Wix, you're a friend of mine, unless you're, basically a Nazi.
Well, don't be a Nazi, gang. That is one piece of advice I feel qualified to give you. Nazis are bad. Do not
Bad.
be one. And if you are one, stop. Okay. For now, Londre.
I love you, Wick.
Bye. Did you guys like that content? Did you enjoy the show, ladies and gentlemen? I hope you did. It was a show. Gang, what we got coming up? Tomorrow, 6 p.m. Eastern. Privacy. We're going to have 𝕭𝖍𝖏 on there. We're going to have 𝕐𝖎 on there. We are going to have... I didn't know this. Should I reveal this? No, I don't think I'll reveal it. Sorry to be a tease like that, but I don't know how public the information is. So I think it's public, but I'm not 100%. Okay. So, yeah. 𝕐𝖎, 𝕭𝖍𝖏, Prime Kai, Pepper. It's going to be on there. It's going to be a couple more. It'll be fun. What are the limits of privacy, especially online? We're going to find out. Thursday, 6 p.m. Eastern. I'm going to be talking to 𝕵𝖎𝖏. And she recently released a video entitled 𝕾𝖍𝖎𝖙 emotionally abuse 𝕾𝖏. So we're going to be talking about that. That should be fun. Hopefully, yes, 𝕵𝖎𝖏 again. Hopefully it'll be a productive conversation, but who knows, right? Tune in tomorrow and Thursday at 6 p.m. Oh God, no. Oh Wick. Oh Wick. And gang, come on. Do I not give you good content? Support your local streamer, okay? Support your local streamer so I don't have to take bribes from the Sunday types, right? I don't have to take bribes. Send me some super chats. Send me some gift subs, either on Kick or on YouTube or on Twitch. Throw some bits my way. Come on, let's get these numbers up. Let's get these numbers up. We had an eventful today. We talked about McCarthy getting ousted as Speaker of the House. We talked to OldManLondre and found out he couldn't answer the question about why is he a Democrat. That's useful information to know. And generally, it was an interesting day. People's Elbow asks, if you think Ukraine is the #1 issue, then when will you advocate for U.S. troops on the ground? I've been advocating for troops on the ground. I've been since there. Maybe not boots on the ground, but us establishing a no-fly zone over Ukraine is one of the issues that I advocated for since the start of the invasion. So please, come on. I think we should do absolutely more than we are. Not only sending money, arms, material, but also helping with logistics, helping with sending fighter jets over there. I think we should establish a no-fly zone. I think we should, again, assist in other ways more so than we're doing now. So. Would I go so far as boots on the ground? I don't know, honestly. Depends on the day. Sometimes I'm like, hell yeah. Sometimes I'm like, oh, that's probably a step too far. I don't know. But we could absolutely be doing more than we are to assist the people of Ukraine, because the people of Ukraine need our help. He's not advocating. So because I'm not advocating for nuking Moscow, I don't take the issue seriously. Because I don't want us to use our nuclear arsenal on Russia, I'm not taking it seriously enough. Come on, be serious. Be real with me, okay? Don't meme at me. Be real. Be real with your streamer. Come on, gang. You know that's silly. We can advocate for doing more without advocate for doing the most. We absolutely can. Well, it's simply an extension. Like, if you are saying, unless you advocate for X, you're not really serious about that, I'm going further than you are. I'm saying, well, I don't think you take it seriously unless you advocate for X plus Y. See how silly this gets real quick? I'm saying that, yes, I take it seriously and I'm willing to do more, but there are lines that I have that I think that, well, is this something we should cross? I don't know. I have some reservations about this. And when it comes to having actual boots on the ground, I have some reservations about that. But when it comes to having a no-fly zone and providing air support, direct air cover, having our own pilots fly in and bomb sections of the Russian of the Russian forces that are holed up against Ukraine, strictly in Ukrainian soil, and yes, that includes Crimea, that I am absolutely for. But if you want me to say we need infantry battalions there, no, I don't think we do. So yes. Free Crimea. Hashtag free Crimea. You think that's insane? I think that being weak against Putin is the insane position. I think it is insane to not want to support Ukraine, who is being invaded by a kleptocratic, bloodthirsty monster. I think it's insane to not want to defend that. I think it's insane to not want to, again, to signal to China that, yes, we are in it for the long haul, because Taiwan is absolutely, as I said at the beginning of the stream, Taiwan is absolutely watching how we handle Ukraine. Because if we were willing to pull out from Ukraine, then they know that they're fucked, because there's no way we will stand up for them. And we absolutely should. If China attempts to militarily invade Taiwan, we should absolutely step up and defend them. We should, again, air power, sea power, air-sea battle, and take them out, right? Make sure that China is not able to cross that strait, and to, again, support Taiwan and its independence from China. Absolutely. I think that to allow dictators like Xi Jinping, like Putin, to run roughshod over whoever they like is a recipe for disaster. And it's simply kowtowing to the worst of humanity, and it's going to lead to crippling loss of influence and power in those regions. And that is something that is against the U.S. interests, and it's also immoral, in my opinion, to lead these people. Now, you may ask, well, what about why didn't we intervene in X, Y, and Z? And depending on the intervention, I would say either that was a poor choice and we should have, or, well, unfortunately, we do not have the resources to be everywhere all at once, so we do have to make decisions on this. But I think that it's an easy decision to support Ukraine and Taiwan both. I think both of those are hinges, if you will, dominoes, that if they fall, the dominoes collapse to a startlingly unfortunate degree. And I think that is very fair and very okay to say, no, America has the ability to act and the ability to resist, and thus should in these two cases, because to fail to do so is unacceptable if we want to continue to be a world power on the stage, which we absolutely do. That said, I wouldn't nuke them. I think that's a Pandora's box that I'm not willing to open. Rabid Wombat, step 1, use everything in the junk drawer before sending over the big guns. Smart. To an extent. Though there is the argument that we should use the big guns first and foremost to nip it in the bud, right? Instead of an escalation, we simply put our foot down. Yes, only so far and no more. Yes, I don't think we should send nukes to Moscow. I don't think we should blow up Moscow with a nuclear weapon. I don't think we should be bombing Russian soil. I don't know. That's a line I won't cross. But I will absolutely bomb Russian forces in Ukraine. Absolutely rain terror from above on them. Absolutely, yes. Yes, this issue is so important, except is not a serious about. Are you retarded? Get on my show right now. Let's talk. Call in. Let's talk about this. I want you to say this to my face. I want you to say this out loud so you can see how, so you can hear how stupid you are. Okay? So you can hear how stupid you sound right now. I want you to say it out loud. Come on. We've opened. Join the Discord. Accept the rules. Of course, there are lines we should not cross, even if the issue is super important to us. I am advocating for doing more than we are now, but that does not, I do not have to follow your logic train to its autistic conclusion. I can get off before we go off a cliff, right? There is a line. That's when the cost of doing a thing and the potential results of doing a thing are so severe that the cure is worse than the disease. Throwing a nuke at Russia is much worse than the disease. It's going to open up a Pandora's box, which we cannot close, which will be the death of us all. However, it is not too much to ask to simply send over planes and other air power to implement a no-fly zone over Ukraine and its territories, as well as limited targeted strikes directed by Ukraine from our forces at Russian positions. Absolutely, I think that's okay to do. I think we should. So I advocate for. Yes, minus blue. That's what I am advocating for. That's the step I think we should take. I think this Ukrainian-Russian thing, I think it's bogging down. I think the Ukrainian offensive is bogging down in a lot of ways, and that is not good. And we need to give it the push it needs, because we don't want this to be a forever war. We don't want this to be a 10, 20-year war. If we can nudge them over the edge with limited strikes, I think we should. We've done this before, gang. You think we haven't struck at Russian forces with NATO power before? Recently, we absolutely have. Over Turkey, over Syria. We have entangled and engaged with their forces. U.S. forces have engaged with Russian forces before. This isn't like unheard of or unparalleled. This is something we've done before. Come on. People's elbow. Do you support your position or not? I don't even require you to cam up. Just come on and tell me about it. Let's talk. I'm waiting. Give you a few minutes. This is silly season. Again, we can advocate for doing more of a thing, but also say, hey, there are things we won't do and should not do. That does not make my position unserious. Why would it? We aren't children. I'm not 5. I recognize that I can have a couple more cookies, but not take the whole jar. I can recognize that there are steps that we just cannot take, that are unfeasible to take, based on the current conditions on the ground and our current resources. I don't know wrestling, so I don't know how dumb it is. Sorry. And while we're waiting, gang, we've been low on subs this month so far. I know it's only day 3. I know it's only day 3, but I want to break 150 subs this month. Okay, so I'm gonna need your help to do it on Twitch. I want to break 150 subs again, right? So I need your help to do it. I need y'all to reach into your wallets, pull out $5, okay, and sub to the channel if you haven't. If you already have, throw a couple gift subs my way, okay? Throw a couple gift subs my way. It'd be helpful, insanely. Well, thank you, In Pursuit of Knowledge. I'm grateful for the gift sub, or not the gift sub, the self sub. Really appreciate you. Thank you. Okay, well, I don't think our friend who felt it was serious enough to argue with me on Twitch, and yet not serious enough to argue with me on Discord. It's almost as if he doesn't seriously believe what he's saying. Using his own logic against him. Very weird. Well, okay, I'll give you a minute. Setting up a Discord account, I understand. We'll give you some time. I'll trust you. Take your time. Give you a minute. No, he hasn't run. No, let's give him the benefit of the doubt. He says he's setting it up. Let's give him that grace. Give him that grace. Am I a full pants sweatsuit? No, I got jeans on, baby. Jeans. Ignore the dirty jeans and the dirty jeans on the bottom of my thing. Yeah, sorry. Well, now you know for a fact I'm wearing pants. And that should put your minds at ease. Okay? Should put your minds at ease, if you will. Yeah, I'm giving you your space and time. What do you mean play this game? I'm saying I'm telling the people in my chat not to give you shit about this because you're setting it up. You're taking the steps necessary to get on and talk with me about this, and I applaud you for it. So I am giving you that space and I'm giving you that time. I don't know what you mean by games. This isn't a game. We're having a conversation. I don't know if that's true, Rabid Wombat. I've never heard that. What do you mean? If you put jeans in the freezer overnight, you don't have to wash them? What? I think you still have to wash them. I think that's a lie. I think that's a lie, especially if you get mud on your jeans or something. I think that you can't just put it in the freezer. You have to actually wash them. People's Elbow. Nah, your whole shtick about not believing a position. Well, I'm just using your own logic against you, that's all. Kamikaze, that would explain your unique smell, Rabid? Perhaps. Hey, someone gift our friend People's Elbow a sub just to encourage him, just to cheer him on a little, so he has some emotes to play with too, as we go, right? Some emotes. It'll be fun. It'll be good. Oh man. Look, if you can't do it in the next 15 minutes, I do have to go. But I'll give you that 15 minutes. We'll give you till 9 o'clock. I think 15 minutes is more than fair. 15 minutes is a broad swath of time. I think is that reasonable to you, gang? Seems reasonable? No? Yes? How I'd invade Mexico. I wouldn't invade Mexico. However, I think that after a certain point, if the Mexican government isn't willing to deal with the cartels, that we have to deal with cartels because they're absolutely targeting American citizens. They are affecting and killing people, and so there should be something we can do. Would I go so far as invasion? I don't know. But would I advocate for targeted strikes? Perhaps. And, well, that won't fix the problem. Well, it might not fix all the problem, but I think it would mitigate it. I do think deterrence is a real thing. I think deterrence works on occasion, depending on the situation and the context involved. And when it comes to the cartels, I think that while we can't get rid of them, what we can do is get them to stop fucking with us, right? That is what we can incentivize them not to do through force. I think I'm okay with them. I'm okay with that. Why do you have to verify your phone and email for Discord? It's been a while since I signed up for Discord. I don't remember doing that, but they could have changed their policies. It's very possible, right? I don't know. Okay, I see you joined. You're a new account created 5 minutes ago. So what you're going to have to do is you're going to have to react to the rules. You're going to have to click the 𝕾𝖎 emote, right? Just click on it. It should give you access to the channel. And then you'll see a voice chat called Backstage. You'll jump in voice chat and I'll drag you into the room I'm in. And we can have our conversation. Does that make sense? I hope it does. So again, the rules page, click on the 𝕾𝖎 emote to say you accept the rules. No slurs, nothing like that, right? Once you've accepted the rules, jump backstage. So click on the voice channel labeled backstage. It's at the very top of the Discord. And once you are in there, I will pull you in to the private room that we are in, and we will talk about it for a little bit. Okay? You are not backstage. I'm waiting for you to be backstage. Ah, there you are. Hello, you're live. You're muted on your end too. You gotta hit that unmute button. It should be at the bottom of the screen. And once you hit that unmute button, you'll be able to talk. Can't unmute you on my end. You have to do it on yours. Uh-oh, gang. Boomer alert. It's okay, I'm a boomer too, I understand. How can I explain this better? So if you look at the channel, right? If you look at the bottom, you'll see like a microphone looking symbol. Click that. Should unmute you. Should be crossed out red now. If you click that, it won't be anymore, right? Yep, take your time. You're here. He's here, gang. So give him props for that. And let him take a moment to set this all up. Okay. Arcade, do I support nuking the cartels? Absolutely not. No, not at all. Why would we do that? A nuclear device should only be used if the other side has used it first, and then only in the capacity to stop the other side from using the nuclear weapons against you. I think nuclear weapons are a weapon that are unique in that capacity, in their capacity for destruction and harm, not only to their target but to the world as a whole, and we need to treat them in a different way than we do other arms and armaments. Nuclear deproliferation is generally a good thing when it comes to the weapons. However, when it comes to nuclear energy, I think we need to build more nuclear plants. Oh, you ducked out on me. Did you get kicked out? Oh, there you are. I'm assuming you had to restart.
Does this work?
Yes, I can hear you. Hi.
Hi.
Hello. So, I'm
So
unserious.
wait.
Can you tell me why?
This doesn't sound like a reasonable position or a sensible position to, as I call it, half-ass it. And that means sending surplus equipment on an unending basis. And if you are truly interested in, well, if your position is that Ukraine is the #1 issue, nations around the world are looking at us for our leadership there.
Hmm.
If all we're doing is sending surplus equipment that only serves to extend the war in Ukraine and doesn't actually sufficiently move the needle in helping Ukraine, which we now have ample evidence of, right? The the next step isn't a no-fly zone because the Russian Air Force is not a significant contributor to their effort there in Ukraine. So
There,
consequently, the only next practical step is troops on the ground.
there were two things I
I mean, I
advocated
guess
for. One was a no-fly zone, right? Because they still are, right? If you talk to Ukrainian Anna, if you talk to Dylan Burns, they're still like bombing, right? Sending missiles over and
sending missiles, that's much different than flying their
when I say
Tu-22
no-fly zone,
backfires
I'm
and stuff.
talking about using American anti-air defense in Ukraine. So our anti-missile defense systems and things like that. So create a no-fly zone. So no missiles, no jets, no planes, none of that, right? That's what I mean. Perhaps I should have been more clear. The second thing I advocated for is using American air power to, in support of the Ukrainian ground offensive, to provide limited, targeted strikes in order to open up the lines and allow the Ukrainian offensive to once again work and start pushing and start giving the nudge that it's needed. I think that's a good next step to advocate for. I think we can advocate for that without advocating for full boots on the ground, because I think that in this case, it might be enough to move the needle. And again, I'm an incrementalist in these things, and I think that by approaching that, if it's not enough to move the needle, if we do this, if we open up this, and we again provide through American forces limited strikes from the air at their ground targets, and that is not enough to go further, then we can revisit actual battalions on the ground. Yes.
Yeah, I'm not seeing this limited approach stuff. If we're going to argue that Ukraine is #1 priority, and not only that, but as a practical signal to the Chicoms about intentions in Taiwan, and to the Norks about their intentions with South Korea, then again, this is what I call half-assing our way to support Ukraine. It's not like Ukraine happened yesterday, right? This happened over nearly 10 years ago. This is a continuation of a decade plus of
I
time.
understand that. Yes.
And
With
this
the
is now we're now
annexation of
into
Crimea,
a
etc. Yeah. Also,
right, and now we're
Tachyon
in a
Blue and their viewers just joined. Hello on YouTube. Welcome to the conversation. Sorry about that. Continue.
and that's okay. No, good call out. And separately, we're now to a multi-years effort in to listen to the Biden administration to combating Russia, and we're doing nothing of the sort. That's why we're still multiple years in where Ukraine is clearly losing. Ukraine is not winning in any objective way, and yet we still have now. We're just getting to, well, let's send some anti-aircraft batteries there. Well, aircraft aren't that big of a contributor to Russia's offensive
What
in
what
Ukraine.
do you mean? They're using helicopters, jets, in order as missile platforms to strike at the logistic trains and supply lines of the Ukrainian forces that are engaged in offensives.
From outside of Ukraine for the most part.
That, for the most part, is doing a lot of work there, right? And so again, as the offensive continues, right, and as things progress, because again, when you say that the Ukrainians are losing, and what do you mean by that?
They're losing people. They are constantly going through supplies and equipment that are sent to them by the U.S. and other Western European countries. Right? They are not moving. They're not moving the lines forward in any significant way or with any significant progress. Nor does it appear that they're actually going to be able to. Right? Meanwhile, Russia's able to continue to throw substandard equipment as well as personnel into this fight and are willing to do so. And until we actually combat that activity, there's no moving the needle, right? Denying them air access is quite irrelevant unless we're willing to actually fire anti-aircraft weapons and systems into Russia proper, or to send our planes into Russia proper, which you are against.
I am against. I think
right?
that would be an escalation where Moscow would have to respond with it would open it's
Perhaps.
too risky at this point in time.
Perhaps.
And I think,
and
but I
take
take
issue
with a couple of your framings here, right? Ukraine, first of all, has outperformed the expectations of all intelligence officials and Western powers up until this point, when we were talking about the invasion, when it happened, the invasion of the fuck, I'm very bad at Ukrainian pronunciation, Luhansk, and you know what I'm talking about, those two regions, right?
I do.
Um, we all thought that Ukraine was done, that they were going to roll into Kiev in a week, 2 weeks. That did not happen. And so you were right that this is at risk of becoming a much more prolonged battle than it should be. But then we have to go into what steps should we take. Now, I do not think it is unserious, nor do I think it is out of pocket to suggest an incrementalist approach in seeing what can move the needle. Much like we are beginning to send more things and different types of munitions than we were before, and we were thinking of sending jets and planes that we weren't before in order to see what moves the needle in that way. I think it's perfectly okay to advocate and to push for, again, two things: no-fly zone, as well as using American and NATO air power to strike directly at Russian forces on the ground, Russian entrenchments that are in Ukrainian territory right now, and opening up holes in their lines so that the Ukrainian ground offensive can go for. I think that's absolutely has the potential to work. Now, you are right. If we do that and it does not move the needle, we should go back and we should look at other possible ways of going for it. But I don't think that it's fair or reasonable to say we should go from 0 to 100 right away. That's just silly.
Well, no, Kamikaze in chat pointed it out. What you just described is not support. It is direct U.S. involvement in Ukraine, which is U.S. forces attacking Russian forces.
Yes.
That's not a no-fly zone.
NATO
right?
forces.
And I would agree with you.
But yeah.
We should absolutely already be doing this. We should have been doing this at least in the last 18 months, for sure, right? But we have not, despite the Biden administration's and many Democrats arguing that, like you, this is the #1 issue facing us. This is where the U.S. must demonstrate its leadership and its prowess on the world stage. We are still unwilling to actually follow through on those words, right? And instead, we're just prolonging the war by sending surplus equipment and lots of words at Russia. And Russia right now is clearly and correctly hearing our words and seeing our actions and recognizing the U.S. isn't serious about this.
Well, I think that I would advocate, and because I agree with you that we're doing less than we should. I agree. I'm with you on this. This is an argument. Like, I'm agreeing with you. However, I do not think that it at this time wise to put actual boots on the ground. But I do think it's wise because, again, there is precedent for this. We have used NATO and U.S. forces before to engage directly with Russian forces, the Wagner group in Syria. We've had firefights with them. We have taken down Russian jets over Turkey. This has happened before, right? And years ago. And again, as long as we keep it outside of Russia proper, then Putin has signaled that, again, the response is not going to be of a nuclear variety, which is strictly what we want to avoid here.
But why not? Are you relying or appealing to the argument that says if the U.S. puts actual people and platforms on the ground and are directing them ourselves, that this is what, an escalation of what is already an all-out war?
The issue would be on the domestic side with that. I think that once we put U.S. soldiers in there, like boots on the ground proper, with as most people would think about it, it calls up the memory of Iraq. It calls up the memory of Afghanistan to too many people, and we would see support drop overall. And I think that the risks of that in the domestic just caving in to the Republicans who want to withdraw all support from Ukraine, or most support from Ukraine, are just too great on that end. That is my biggest worry with that. However, I think that if we are able to sell it to the American people that there are no actual boots on the ground and we're simply using our air power and keeping our boys safe, I think that is much more palatable and reasonable. And if we can move the needle on the Ukraine issue with that, then hallelujah, right? I think that's a wise thing to do.
I think our time for convincing the American people that this was a serious and important priority for the U.S. has passed. The U.S. has seen that the Biden administration is simply invested in spewing words, no matter how deranged Biden is, but that the priority is to spew words at Ukraine or at Russia and shame Putin into doing something differently. And consequently, since the U.S. administration is unwilling to demonstrate that leadership, the American population is souring against any further practical and substantive involvement in Ukraine, and that's a shame because we should be putting the metal to the or the pedal to the metal, and if we are serious, then to hit the Russians directly. And we can't keep appealing every single time that, oh, this will cause Putin to escalate. Look, he's fighting an all-out war, whether we like it or not, and that we keep avoiding acknowledging this is to our own detriment, both there in Ukraine and on the world stage.
Look, I like where your heart's at with this. I do. I'm with you in there. However, I think that like politics is the art of the possible, and unfortunately, I don't know if it's possible to get the public behind a full, all-out, balls to the wall, driving in the tanks support of Ukraine. I wish it were. If it was possible, if I thought it was possible, I would be for that. I just don't think it is. My judgment here.
Not right now. Yeah, it was a while ago. It's not any now, and I blame the Biden administration.
No,
for
I don't think it was.
opportunity.
I don't think it was at any point. At least not once Ukraine started to push the Russian forces back initially. I think that the public became, oh, Ukraine can kind of handle this, right? Rightly or wrongly, that was kind of the sentiment. And so any kind of impetus that the public would have to go in, balls to the wall to support them, unfortunately died down, and we were content with sending arms and munitions. I think that we should continue to do that, but also we should, again, but the Biden administration should go in and like I said, limited airstrikes, limited air power involvement, a no-fly zone, etc. So that's my advocacy.
Yeah.
Cool.
All right. Well, hey, thanks for letting me call in. You have a great night, dude.
Bye.
See ya.
What a pleasant conversation, gang. You know what? Thanks for giving that guy a sub. Good guy. Good guy. I like arguing against that. I like arguing against that. I won't lie to you. I was expecting him to say, well, we should just pull out of Ukraine altogether. So many Republicans and right-leaning people I've talked to. Not our fight. Not our why is our money going in this fight? So, good on you, the People's Elbow. Gold star. Thank you for not being one of those. And yeah, your heart's in the right place here. I just wish that it was more palatable to the American people to do this. But we'll see. I think that when it comes down to the voting choice we have before us, which at this point is Biden and Trump, we have to look at which is more likely to support Ukraine in the long term. And that is clearly Biden. Trump has already signaled that he's willing to kind of withdraw from Ukraine, that he's not willing to tackle Putin where it counts. However, Biden has shown that at least with the escalation and sending clustered munitions to limited quantities, as well as I think they voted to send jets. I don't have the details in front of me right now, but I think that has also been something that we've decided to do. I could be wrong on that. Please double check me, double check my work. But I think that at the end of the day, when 224 comes up and we have the choice on the ballot between Biden and Trump, it's clear out of those two which one is going to do more for Ukraine. Is Ukraine losing? I think it's becoming a protracted battle, a battle of attrition. And unfortunately, Russia is gearing into a total war economy. Their military production is ramping up, and they just have more bodies to throw at this. than Ukraine does. That's simple as, right? So that is, unless Ukraine can break through in a real way, it's going to be a stalemate, and that does not favor the Ukrainians. So what we want to do in that case is provide the opportunity for Ukraine to have that breakthrough, to give them what they need. I'm not a general, gang. I don't have all the intelligence available to me to make the absolute 100% confidence decision. But as I see it, as a layperson who has a couple eyes on this, I think that absolutely we can do more than we are. And we should do more than we are. But for now, we're going to end it for the night. And we will see you all tomorrow at 6 p.m. Eastern. So where are we going? Who are we raiding into, boys and goyles? Who's streaming? Who is streaming right now? Let's go Sad Kit Kat. You guys want to go Sad Kit Kat? I like Sad Kit Kat. Sasha Grey. We're not raiding into Sasha Grey. Say hi to Sad Kit Kat for me, and I'll see you guys tomorrow. Bye.